Hey everybody, just wanted to start the show by thanking my wonderful patrons, Pete Harney, Ryan Payne of the Gamers Week podcast, Dan of Retro Logic, Seth Sturgill of the All N podcast, Julian of Nerds Without Pants, and Tim Knowles of The Elitist. All of these dudes are graciously hanging with me through the lean months of August and September, and I greatly appreciate it. If you want to join them, go to patreon.com/agamerlooksat4040. Take a look at the tiers and sign up today. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Let's get into it. And welcome to yet another back-to-school bonus episode of A Gamer Looks at 40. Very quick. This has to be a quick intro because did you see the length of this show? I've never released an episode this long, but I think I want to give people who may not listen to some of the other shows I'm on an opportunity to check that out and maybe check them out as well. The show I'm on the most, other than this, obviously, is Games My Mom Found. I've probably been on more episodes of Games My Mom Found than I've released episodes of this show. We went through the entire MCU. We have not done a stage 4 yet, but we will. Or phase 4. I've been on a number of different game episodes. I've done a Mega Man series with them. I've done probably at least 12 other movies. I've been on a lot of shows on Games My Mom Found, and Mike Alberton has been a good friend in podcasting. I credit him with getting me back into doing this work because I started guesting on his show and I loved it so much. I'm like, I gotta do this again. So this is my dissertation on Bioshock Infinite. This is the reason why I don't need to talk about this game anymore. I don't need to pop into comments when people talk about how much they love this game and start conversations or arguments about it. I will just point them to this 3-hour episode for everything, for all of my thoughts about this title. So enough about that. Thank you so much for listening to the show and supporting it during this busy season of work. This is the Bioshock Infinite episode of Games My Mom Found, replayed here on A Gamer Looks at 40. Let's dive into it.
Mom Found. I am Mike Alberton, who's tearing holes in reality and changing ideas with me tonight.
Bill Tucker from the A Gamer Looks at 40 podcast. And you know what they say about those DeWitt boys? Once a Comstock, always a Comstock.
And I am Jonathan Waiter, but please call me John. And I'm so happy to be here on Games My Dad Found. But I'm Joe Butler. Nice to meet you.
Good.
Good. We are here to talk about the long-anticipated episode of Bioshock Infinite, developed by Irrational Games, came out in 2013. So we've been joking about this game for, I think, 2 years, Bill had said before this recording, about us talking about this. Well, Bill's been, cutting this game down, it's a long-anticipated episode.
Man, we should talk about all of our initial experiences with this game first. And why I've been dunking on this game for 2.5 years at this point now. I played this upon release. This was like a day one release game for me. I bought it. It was 2013. This game released in 2013. And I remember playing it and really, really liking it. I remember being blown away by the story mostly and the city of Columbia and all that fun stuff. And over the years, I never played it again. And over the years, I started thinking about it because this game comes up in conversation more often than you would think, right? And you're like, wait a minute, I don't think I like that bit very much. Wait a minute, I don't think I like that bit. Wait a minute, that's kind of gross. And over time, my opinion has eroded on it to where now it's kind of like my go-to, just stupid Bioshock Infinite. And when I refer to a stupid thing in a game. So this was a new playthrough for me. I really tried to divorce myself of those old feelings and say, what is this game? Play this game. This time around, I played it on stream, on Twitch. I streamed the entire playthrough. My brother-in-law was there for the entire playthrough as well. And every once in a while, at least once or twice a stream, he would say, "Psst, Bill, I think you're enjoying yourself." Because he listens to this show and knows how much I dunk on this game. Bill, you're having a good time. And I won't state my thesis on this game just yet.
Well, I'll let others talk about it, but it was very different playing this on stream than it would have been just in front of my computer playing. Because on stream, I have to talk, I have to be engaging, I have to be fun. I have to have more fun on stream, or else no one wants to sit there and watch some cranky old man complain about a Bioshock game everyone loves. So I think that might have made it more fun for me, just the fact that I was playing it with my brother-in-law watching and some people popping in. And so that might have helped me enjoy the game more. I don't no longer hate this game. It is an extraordinarily average first-person shooter and a terrible, may I underline, terrible Bioshock game. This is a terrible Bioshock game, and we'll go from there. So I don't hate it as much as I did, but I still think this is a grave disappointment. What about you guys?
Mike, I'm going to go ahead and argue with that. And I'm going to say this is actually a really good Bioshock game. I think this game has a not as good, but on par, decent twist as the original Bioshock. I got this game back when I was 20 when this game came out. So, of course, I'm young. I'm full of hormones and all this other stuff. And, it's one of the things where it's like, I never got a chance to play. I actually got my Xbox 360 the Christmas before this game came out. I used that weird, if you pay $50, you take this coupon from Microsoft and you pay for Xbox Live for 2 years to pay off your Xbox.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they do it now, too. And it's one of the things which I'm going to bring up a lot in this, and I hope both of you don't know anything about it because it's actually really weird. The beta, that first trailer that came out with you falling out of the sky and being caught by Elizabeth, amazing. The gameplay stuff they showed off at E3 for years, fantastic. This game, as much as I hate to admit it, gameplay is awful, but I do have a really soft spot for 2/3 of the story, mainly because that middle part's really
yeah, it's the stuff that nobody remembers. Nobody remembers that the bit you're talking about. We'll talk about it. Everyone remembers the beautiful Columbia, which is awesome, and the ending, which is impressive. But there's a giant tear-sized hole in here that I hope someone can explain to me. Because that's the other side of it. I hope you can, and maybe I missed something. I'm totally willing to admit I missed something in the text, and just I don't know. But we'll get there as we kind of walk through the game. But the middle bit is so stupid and wrong. Yes. We'll talk about it. But anyway.
And then for me, I remember I bought this game off a GameFly sale. I want to say I probably got it late 2013. It was probably $15 in GameFly. I remember being excited when it got here. I was excited to play it. I did not like Bioshock 1 at the time when I played it, way before the show. And I played Bioshock, and I never played Bioshock 2, so I was excited for something different. So I remember getting this game. I remember, for me, I usually didn't play games right away when I got them because I had such a huge backlog I would go through because I was collecting games then too, just like I do now. But I did play this right away. I was just so excited to play this. And I remember really enjoying it, and I've had nothing but good memories of it. I had forgotten a lot of the racist stuff and all that. I just remember the gameplay being really fun, and I enjoyed the twist. My opinion has changed a little bit this playthrough because I've played more shooters since then, and I played Bioshock 1 and 2. And I do need to say, we are going to get political in this episode because it's Bioshock. We have to, so we're going to get political. So if you don't want to hear our political opinions, which we're going to insert here when it comes to this, you've been warned. And to start that off, a joke thing I want to say is there was a Fox channel thing, a little segment where they took the Bioshock logo, the outline of it, and put something about freedom, something on there.
Oh, that's weird.
Ew. Okay.
Yeah. And they completely lost missed the point. One of those things.
Point missed completely.
Yeah, but plus they copied the logo. I don't care who you are, don't copy a logo of a game. Especially something that's cutting down on the idea that you're trying. I think it's something to do with immigration.
Oh no.
It was something to do with that. I'm trying to find it right now, but I know they stole it, and I think Ken Levine even just said they missed the point. And that was all he called it irony.
Yeah, I would call it a little more than that. That's pretty crazy. Someone was on a deadline. Someone was just like, oh, gee, I need to search up some stock images. Video game. No one plays video games. Cool. I'll grab this. Yeah. Oh well. That's unfortunate.
Sure love that Street Fighter logo.
I was gonna make the joke. Because that's basically exactly what it seems like happened with the Street Fighter. I was gonna make that exact joke. Lordy. So I think we should. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'll say real quick. It's funny you mentioned GameFly, Mike, because I actually got GameFly to get this game because I could afford the Xbox, couldn't afford any new games. So
Apparently, I vanished.
oh, but I got GameFly to get Bioshock Infinite. I got it like a month before it came out and like put that as my number one game, and surprisingly got it like that week it came out.
Okay, cool. I'm not sure what the hell happened. All of a sudden, Skype just closed on me.
That's weird.
Maybe it was a
Well, you're
rip
still here.
happened.
You're still here. You're here with us. Come on. You can't punch out now. Can't punch out now.
So when I went into this game, I didn't remember a lot in general. I was just surprised. Like, this game is an interesting opening that, Bill, you had mentioned beforehand, like when you actually understand, you have these two twins that are rowing a boat, and you had made a comment how it makes much more sense when you understand it. And when you said that, I'm like, I don't remember anything you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because I didn't remember who the twins were.
Right. So before we kind of get into the story, I was wondering if we could kind of talk a bit about the mechanics of it, because
Sure.
I think that's the part everyone here can agree is less than great, actually, from average to pretty bad. Maybe just talk about the different mechanics and the vigors and the stupid clothing, the hats and pants.
So
Yeah, because you can certainly just buy pants that make you shoot electricity to your fellow friends. Of course, just buy those pants. That's great. That's
I love
absolutely
these
in the world.
pants.
Pants stink. There's one pair of pants that are amazing, and I'm so glad I wore them because I really didn't. So we'll talk about it. Let's.
I don't like
Yeah.
the clothes in this game. I would.
Those are stupid. They're stupid. And here's why this is a bad Bioshock game. And we'll probably, maybe Joe and I will probably talk a bit about this back and forth. I hope so, because I'd like to hear this point of view. Not just quick side thing. I was on somebody else's Twitch stream, and he's playing Bioshock, a buddy of mine. And someone on his stream, of course, said Bioshock Infinite's great. He said Bioshock Infinite's better than the original.
Oh,
And I said no. I said no. I disagree. And I know this guy from other places. And he's like, well, I don't think I'll change your mind, so we shouldn't have a conversation about it. And I'm like, no, we can. Like, I'm not like a stone wall. Like, you're not going to change my mind that this is a bad game, but I'd love to hear your point of view. Like, I'd love to hear why you like this game so much. Maybe there's something I'm missing. You can have a debate with the understanding that you're probably not going to change the other person's mind, right? It's okay to have those healthy debates. So I'm looking forward to hearing why Joe thinks this is a good Bioshock game. Exhibit 1 and why this is not a good Bioshock game. Nothing in this world exists for the sake of the world it's in. Nothing is kind of diegetic to the world. Nothing. They have vigor machines where anybody with $75 can walk up and get possession, which you can just possess your friends, evidently, as a thing that a lady is handing you at the fun fair. Like, here, drink this potion and you can possess all of the vigor machines and possess your friends and have a good laugh. And oh, you can buy a little upgrade that'll cause them to commit suicide after you've done possessing them. Isn't that great? Like, yay. Here's a plasmid that you can throw fire at people, right? Those were available in Bioshock in the genetic areas. And it makes sense in Bioshock in Rapture because everyone's spliced up to the gills. This is, again, science without morality. This is medicine without morality. Like, it fits in that world better where you could do that. And yes, it's a little gamey. I mean, fine, we're in a game, but that's stupid. There's voxophones all over the place with people's private messages just sitting on barbershop chairs. Just there. Here it is. Great. This is Comstock's private thoughts because we need to exposit we need to do the exposition, and nothing makes sense in this world. We're throwing away perfectly good apples. Perfectly good apples in snack bars everywhere. The residents of Columbia just throwing that everywhere because we don't need this, evidently.
Well, it's a utopia. I mean, that's the idea, is that you have this utopia world in the sky.
There's actually a really funny part that I like in the game where you can just straight up eat potatoes out of a toilet, and I always do because it's funny.
I don't remember that. That's pretty good. But not without getting into transgression there. So basically, it's the same as Bioshock, the original Bioshock, with a couple of additions. You have, of course, weapons, and then you have plasmids, or they call them vigors now. The weapons are, none of the weapons are really all that inspiring or great. What weapon did you guys kind of mainline through the game with?
The shotgun.
Shotgun?
It's okay. No, the shotgun and then the hand cannon. I used the hand cannon a lot once I got it.
Okay.
But none of the weapons, one of the biggest issues with this game for me that really hurt my opinion on this is you can only carry 2 weapons at a time. Where in the first Bioshock 1 and 2, you get the wheel of different weapons, which I understand you're going for that more realistic Halo approach that Halo did, where you only have two guns, and it works in some games. It does not work for me in this game. I hated the fact I only had two weapons I could choose from at a time, because I like to switch up my weapons for different things. Or like in Bioshock 1 and 2, I'd run out of ammo and switch to this, and run out of ammo for this and switch to this. And this game didn't have that because I only had the two guns, whatever I'm carrying, and it really hurt my opinion on this game a lot. But yeah, you're right. None of the weapons really stand out either. You have two machine guns. Nothing was really that great.
So the one thing about this that I actually do hate about Bioshock Infinite, Bioshock Infinite is the definition of, we need this game to sell because I like money. And I need you to switch up so much different stuff about it. So like I said, I'm going to bring up the beta a lot. There's stuff that they have in files. The weapons you find later on, which are the red weapons that you kind of find, are supposed to be like the original Bioshock Infinite upgrades. Like that's entirely what they were supposed to be. They took it out. God, if I know. I sure as heck don't know why they did that. Funny enough, the weapon system, people complained about it so bad in so many reviews, they actually change it in Burial at Sea.
Yeah.
Oh.
Burial at Sea is one of the biggest retcons in video game history. If you complained about it, they fixed it. They're like, okay, fine.
I've never played Burial at Sea.
Here's a weapon wheel. Yeah.
We're going to cover it when we cover in probably about 2 months or so, once you're free again.
Yeah. That's fine. And for me, I use the carbide all the time.
Yes, I forgot it. That gun is good.
Yeah, that's basically my favorite gun. It was accurate. There was always enough ammunition. And we'll talk about that, how Elizabeth, while it's everyone's favorite escort, and she's extremely helpful, she also undercuts the point of Bioshock games, which is freedom of expression and playing with your tools. Remember, Bioshock is Bioshock isn't infinite. In this game it is. Bioshock is an immersive sim. That's the idea of the genre. In fact, one of the fake puzzles, the quote-unquote puzzles, these brain-breaking, hey, punch in this number, look to your left, there's the number, great. Why did you even put that there? They used the code 0451. And when it happened, I yelled very loudly into my microphone. I said, no, you are not an 0451. You're not that. You could have been. That's what Bioshock is. And this is a disastrous immersive sim. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
I'm going to have to backpedal a little bit too. I also use the carbine. I have the shotgun. I don't remember where you find the hand cannon ever again, but when you get it, when you first enter a certain area, I don't know if you ever find it again, so I never got rid of it. You do.
I dropped it a couple times and I refound it randomly, so I would use it again. But yeah,
I never dropped it.
I stuck with carbide and rocket launcher. And I usually don't like rocket launchers in games. I like sniping and shooting from afar. This just feels good to me. I don't like melee. I never really engage in it unless it's a handyman stomping me in the head in a bad boss battle. But I stuck with RPG because I want to get through the boss battles fast because they're all bad. The handymen are bad. The Patriots are bad. And I didn't want to engage them in the way the game wanted me to. And Elizabeth keeps throwing you RPG ammo, so it's not like it's a special weapon anymore. It's not like I have to conserve it. So I just stuck with RPG and carbide. And once in a while, I would actively say, let me play with the tools. I got to talk about this. So I maybe engage with like half of the weapons, but they're so samey. It really doesn't do much as far as that goes.
That was one of my issues too, is that this game that shows you achievements, which I loved at one time. Like, I only need 10 more kills to get this achievement. Now that I'm no longer an achievement whore, seeing that revitalized the achievement whore in me, and I would use guns just to get the achievements. I'm like, I'm not okay with this. And then I keep doing it anyway. But
nice.
I mean, it's a simple little thing, but it also, like, the fact that one thing I loved about Bioshock 1 and 2 is searching for ammo, running around the corners, grabbing items. But like you said with Elizabeth, you don't have to do that because anytime you run out of ammo, she just throws you more ammo. And that kind of hurt me too, because I like the idea of having to scrounge for ammo. I don't have any of my, machine gun ammo I like to use. I'm going to use this weapon instead. And that wasn't a thing in this game. And I didn't like that.
This game has a really weird, I want to say this came out the same time The Last of Us did. And this and a lot of other games were really trying to do the whole hey, dad simulator. And it does have a really weird consistency. Now, don't get me wrong. Someone spent hours, and I appreciate them spending hours on Elizabeth flicking a coin at you, because hands down, that's the best animation this whole game. But I like Elizabeth. You kind of do have choices of what you want around. They explode, they run out,
Yeah.
It's supposed to be kind of alluding to having her around is the best thing ever. and that's why people want her so badly, is because she's like literally a deus ex machina.
Yes. And she's like an automatic refill station. You know, if you're getting down to health, she'll throw you some health. If you're down, my issue, and I appreciate that as someone who's just trying to play the game, but I agree with you, Joe. I think that's made more for the first person shooter crowd who doesn't want to run out of ammo. And hey, thanks, helpful Elizabeth. I appreciate it. You have a reason to be here, and I don't have to babysit you. And there's no risk of you getting shot, even though it's very funny watching her get shot 5 times as the bullets just pass through. It's very funny because the AI is clearly not supposed to try, but sometimes she just gets in the way, and clearly she's in a different tear at that point. So that's fine. I think the problem with that is kind of like what Mike was saying. It removes the immersive sim nature of Bioshock, which is scrounging around, using your tools, figuring out what works best for one situation. I could sit there with an RPG and fire rockets into the faces of 100 people. I get down to 4. Here's more ammo. Thanks. Like, this special weapon is no longer special, so I can just use this if I want. Which hurts it. And you could say, well, you don't have to use it if you want to engage in it like a sim. You can. If that were the case, give me a wheel. And I'm willing to be gamey and sacrifice the realism of just having 2 weapons, which is realistic, right? Can't walk around with a giant satchel full of clanging weapons. But I'm willing to sacrifice that for freedom of expression, for giving me...
It's a video game. I want it to be fun.
Yeah, encourage me to use the tools because that's what this game is supposed to be about. And in the end, it just ends up like a shooter gallery. Like I said on the stream 100 times, just walking from murder hallway to murder hallway to murder dungeon to murder area.
Also, one of my other big complaints is that which I didn't remember this, even though we hadn't played Bioshock 2 that long ago or Minerva's Den. I was like, this is just the melee was like, this is weird to me because I loved the melee in Bioshock 1 and 2, but that's because it was F1 or 1 on my key and I would hit and use the wrench or use the drill. Like in this, I had to hit the V key in order to hit people with the melee, and it just didn't feel right with my fingers where I'm using WASD to move around, then I got hit V for this. I didn't like it.
Oh, yeah, that is a weird spot to have it in.
And it really, also I played this on PC because you should play all shooters on PC. And that's all I believe now. And it just didn't feel right. And it really bothered me. And it took a little bit before I remembered, oh yeah, there's no wheel and I don't have, that was the issue. And it took a little bit before I realized that. And
yeah, I mean, really I don't know if you could remap that or not. I mean, I don't know if that's the thing. Yeah,
I don't remap,
but I don't use the. I mean, of course, the game gives you this wonderful little 2013 like hyper death, saw their neck in half and watch their head blorp into a million pieces, death animations where everybody stops and waits for you to do it. They're like, ooh, that's pretty cool.
You can also disembowel people.
What's that?
You can also disembowel people.
Oh yeah, you can do that too. That's fun. Great. I mean, again, this is very, very early 2010s. You know, kind of like, hey, we gotta be hyper violent because this game does nothing for a reason. Really, it doesn't do violence like that for a reason. It's cool, right? Why does when you possess somebody and they run around as your pal with the upgrade, they then commit suicide by bashing themselves in the head 4 times? Like, why is that a thing? Like, why did you do that? I don't know. Cool. It's like, and that's not what Bioshock is. It's not what this is.
I noticed that too. It was really weird. I think I was fighting a bunch of enemies, and I think I accidentally had possession out because I was unironically stealing money from the machines, and I hit a guy with it, and I guess I killed everything else, but he was the last enemy. So he looked around and pulled out his shotgun and like shot himself in the head, and I'm like, oh, that's what happens whenever that runs out.
Yep. It's really bizarre, but the combat again for me is just shooting gallery. It was, and that's when my brother-in-law was saying, "See, you're having fun." And I'm like, but there's something. I'm talking to you, enjoying myself streaming and playing. If I was sitting here in front of the computer without being on Twitch, it would have been a much more miserable experience, I think, honestly. But I'm having fun streaming. Like that's what I'm having fun as. It's just shooting gallery, and it's not a terribly good one. And it's just kind of like,
and you don't
after a while, I was so over it. Even on stream, I was like, okay, I'm done with this. Please just get me to the end.
You don't have the freedom. Like in Bioshock 1 and 2, you have the freedom of running around an area, exploring and looking for things. In this game, like you said earlier, it didn't even dawn on me until just now when you said it, that it really is. There is the exploration isn't, you're just moving on and on and on and on trying to get through. That's all it is.
You go from straight line to cavern to straight line to cavern, and when you get to the cavern or the cavern to an arena, straight line to an arena, straight line to an arena. You're in the arena, you know people are gonna pop out everywhere. Especially when you get Elizabeth, you see all the tears, and once you see tears, you're in a murder arena. Like, okay,
Yes.
here I am in murder arena, and we'll talk about why I don't think the tears are very good either.
I like the tears.
Out there too.
So tears are good in concept. They're good in theory. If you watch, when Bioshock Infinite was first teased, not only did they have the trailer, they had a 15-minute gameplay demonstration.
Yes.
That was a freaking amazing. Like, the trailer's amazing, and that 15-minute gameplay thing is amazing. And they're showing Elizabeth like actually using tears to affect combat, if I remember correctly. Like, he's, hey, open that thing up. And why are all these tears in different places anyway? B, how can Booker actually see them? Seems like he can selectively see tears, evidently.
Well,
He sees that. He points. Well, but he can actually see tears, so which implies everybody in the world could see all the tears, which means everybody could see that there's munitions behind that tear. They may not be able to open it. You have a key to open that lock, but that doesn't seem diegetic to the world that Booker could just see tears like, oh,
You have a point.
balloon machine gun. There's a balloon machine gun. Do that. The tears could have been freaking amazing because the game sets up that Elizabeth can do some really cool stuff. Like she does, she'll open up, and again, if the game is trying to posit Elizabeth wouldn't hurt anybody because she does get really freaked out the first time you go on a murder spree and kill 50 people. She gets really freaked out. Understandably. And Elizabeth's voice actress is wonderful. And I really do like Elizabeth as a character. I think she's really good. Booker sucks. Stinks. I can't stand Booker DeWitt. It's terrible.
If it makes you feel better, Booker DeWitt, who is voiced by Troy Baker, encourages NFTs. So
He took that back though after that dumbass comment. But yeah,
did he really?
Yeah,
he took it back right after he did it.
Yeah, because he got flamed on Twitter for it and he couldn't stand by his convictions. So like a big baby, he's like, "Oh, I was just kidding. I guess I didn't realize that this is a completely bad idea." Yeah, asshole. I don't mind Troy Baker. Whatever. But here, I just want to put a pin real quick on Troy Baker, real quick. But I think the tears, again, they're just opening up little bonuses. So it's very gamey to me. It's very gameplay because it doesn't feel, again, diegetic to the world. Hey, I see a tear that has a skyhook there. Open that up. I do like the idea of you have to choose what little bonus you want for your murder arena. That's fine, but I don't think they're really diegetic to the world, and I don't think they work great. I always ended up just getting an automated. If there was an automated turret, I would tell that to shoot people. That's just kind of what I would use for that. Very quickly about Booker DeWitt, I also don't love the fact that you have a voice protagonist. I know in this game you have to, right? Because the interaction between Booker and you have to. There's no choice in the matter. You can't. But I really think that, again, undercuts the greatness of Bioshock because in the other two games, you are not a voice protagonist, which allows you as the player to fully embody this protagonist. You get to be Jack. You get to be the big daddy. In this game, you are Booker DeWitt, and it's harder to roleplay as someone who is a complete moron and asshole. I don't want to embody him. I don't want to be Booker DeWitt. He stinks. Complete idiot. As we go through the story, we'll talk about it. I also think that undercuts kind of the joys of Bioshock, which is embodying a character and making him or her your own. You
are right. He's not nearly as good as, number 2 is a big daddy, or God, what the hell's his name in the first one? Jack?
Jack, yeah.
Jack.
Okay, God, it's been
the freak in the sweater, Jack.
It's just not. I guess I also like games with a silent protagonist, Chrono Trigger. So I mean, yeah, you're right though, because you are an asshole, and it really shows it with the way he talks.
I actually really like Booker DeWitt.
Okay.
Okay. You like him? Not real.
It's also one of the things where I do think it's so. They really should have tried something different, but I do love the idea of him being a complete moron, but also he's 1920s mad. I'm a hard, rugged, drinking, don't like any of this, no sense attitude. What the hell is this? Like they tried very hard to have him be like an action man, but I also do, which we'll get into the story. I do feel like I can't even say that, but you can still technically control kind of the person who he is. Is he the man who wants to get away, or can you still unfurl his murderous intents when choices are given? I also, what is it? I don't know. There's something about Booker DeWitt that I think is really funny, and he does ask questions too, which I guess it's supposed to be kind of a back and forth thing between him and Elizabeth. But I also it's one of the things where this is in the day and age, which goes into it even more. People don't know how to do a silent protagonist, I feel, which is really weird. Same thing happened with Dead Space. Dead Space stopped having a silent protagonist.
Oh yeah, and 2 and 3.
And that goes even further into this as an example as well, which because we kind of bounced all over the place. This is the day age where they try to making games more accessible to gamers. Dead Space 3 suffered from this entirely.
Yes.
With having all the ammo is the same ammo for the same guns. You only have 2 guns, but the bottom gun can do something different. And it's just really weird because it's like someone had a hive mind, and I'm pretty sure there's more examples of it too, but someone had a hive mind of just like, hey, let's just make games super easy. So if they fail, it's because the game sucks and we'll never make another one.
Right.
But you tease a sequel. No more Bioshock, no more Dead Space.
It's a very interesting, that's an interesting point. I maybe it's just, and again, that could be just taste, Booker DeWitt as a character, like that could be just taste. I only remember a few instances where you could have some agency. There's one when you run into Slate and he asks you to shoot him, you can kill him or not. And if you don't, it's actually worse, which I think is actually a pretty good idea. I like when games do that. Dishonored does that a lot. Dishonored 2 does that all the time, which is so good. But Dishonored 2 is a really good immersive sim. I just found him really, really dumb, and I didn't want to inhabit that character. I found myself yelling, Booker, you're an idiot. I know what you're gonna do. You're gonna screw her over. Why are you doing that? He's walking through the Vox Populi, and there's just untold oppression and people being and Elizabeth rightly goes, oh my gosh, I can't believe how these people live. And he's like, not our problem. Let's get the guns. How about you show a little empathy, you complete and total shithead?
I mean, in his defense, it is 1920s, and he's a soldier in 1920s, or was a soldier. So, but yeah, he's an asshole. I mean, it doesn't say not an asshole. Just saying 1920s were different.
Yeah, maybe that context. Yeah.
It's also one of the things too where I took it as a kind of a like, because he does say it sometime later too. He's like, look where we're at. There's nothing we can do. We're completely outnumbered. And it's also one of the things too where it is 1920, so it's kind of a thing of it is still bad of if I'm not helping, I'm not part of the issue, but you also helping is part of the issue too.
I mean, well, yeah. Let's be honest though, Booker. I mean, yes, you look around, there's nothing you can do. I read that as we can't do anything because this is not our job. Let's move on. Let somebody else handle it. Because Booker, you just murdered like 15,000 people beforehand. And you can throw Murder of Crows at everyone. And Elizabeth will just keep handing you salts when you run out. So you literally could just run through this world and let crows pick at the eyes of like all the bad dudes. And like you could do something. You have all this like insane power, and you're a murder factory. So, but again, I get it. And I think that 1920s perspective does this kind of
gives them the way to make this racist world work in the sense of this isn't just god awful. What are you doing? It gives them that backdrop to what they wanted to say.
Yeah, that's fair.
Is why you have the 1920s vibe, because nothing else is 1920s when you really think about it, like the technology, everything like that. That's because futuristic type world, but it's going off that with some of the racist ideas, like the fact that you have Booker, who you play as, was in the Boxing Rebellion, which I forget about because I don't remember my history as well as I should sometimes. And you also have the Battle at Wounded Knee, which I do remember or know about from reading books. So it's two like terrible events where he was involved. Where I think Wounded Knee, isn't that? I thought that's the one where that Custer got. No, that's Custer's last name. Never mind. But it's like just two bad events in U.S. history, or maybe not even U.S. history, but just history where people were not good. I mean, it's kind of interesting that Booker DeWitt was at both of them, the guy you're playing as.
And I could totally see him being like a broken guy. Like, yeah, he's been through some stuff, right? But again, just to have zero empathy, even if he sighed and went softened. Yeah, I can't believe it, but I don't think there's anything we can do. Let's try to stay
something.
Just
They could have made
himself.
It.
Like, not everything has to be one note, Troy Baker. Like, and I know you're a better voice actor than that. You're you and Nolan North. You do all of it, right? So
I'm sure it was more of this is what he was told to do.
Well, obviously, but I mean, I'm just saying. I'm not blaming him. I'm not going to blame Troy Baker. I joke about it.
I will blame Kevin Levine.
I blame him for a lot. Oh boy, do I.
So through the fates, one of my favorite YouTubers and posted something on Twitter about Bioshock Infinite during playing this, and I wanted to read it to y'all because it's hilarious. Which is the plot summary for Bioshock Infinite through him, which is a gruff male with the pleasantry, old-timey name of Booker DeWitt, travels by rocket chair to Columbia, a flying city where people make 20-second recordings of their deepest secrets and leave them lying around in cupboards. He has been sent to retrieve a woman named Elizabeth who has the magic ability to summon a box full of first aid kits from an alternate dimension.
That's great.
Booker wanders around in awe, observing the racist population as they throw machine gun ammunition in the trash and stare silently at nothing. But his sightseeing is cut short when a policeman tries to grab him and he is forced to explode 1,000 heads with a giant rotating hook in self-defense. After exploding enough heads, Booker is taken to an alternate reality where he understands Columbia has risen up in rebellion. These revolutionaries are bad as the racist oppressors, said the deadliest serial killer in history of human civilization, because they are violent. Fortunately, the entire setting is erased from existence and nothing of consequence happens. Metacritic rating of 95.
Listen, you know what? You could have started with that and just saved us all 3 hours, because that's basically the thesis statement for everything I was about to say.
I do want to talk about Elizabeth, though, while we're on characters.
Sure.
I don't care that Elizabeth can't get hurt. I don't care if she gives you ammo from the gameplay stuff, but I just love her as a character. I really do. I like that this character is going through this with you, and she recognizes that you're an asshole. And I love it when he's like, yeah, we're going to Paris. She's like, that's not Paris. That's New York. He's like, oh, what are you talking about? Like, she calls him on his shit. She gets upset with him when he turns out that he's a mass murderer the first time she sees it. Like, I really like her, and as she evolves as the game progresses and she does the Final Fantasy IX thing where she cuts her hair, I like that too. Because she kind of changes a lot as a character and kind of become more realization of what's happening. And, you know, when she opens these tears throughout the game, there's points where she's like, I don't know if this is going to be better. And, you know, she's learning her powers. And I just really like her as a character. A lot more than I thought I would, and a lot more than I remember when I first played this game. She is the highlight to me of this game for me, was playing with, just having her with me.
Yeah,
and
this
love
game,
Portals.
everyone loves Portals. This game really is a coming of age story for Elizabeth too, because she starts off ironically as a girl who grew up in a tower, and then like she's like, you just can't kill people, and it's like, depending on what you chose, Elizabeth, that man stabbed me in the hand. Like we're not in a thing like a position where we can just stroll through here and leave. Like you were locked up in a tower behind like something not even anyone could make, behind a lock. You're being protected by a 30-foot bird. We're not leaving out of here peacefully.
Right. I like, and I agree with you, Mike. I really do like Elizabeth. I think she's great. Her voice actress is fantastic. She's just excellent. I had her name pulled up, but I lost it. She's great for all the reasons you said. She's a character where things have done nothing but happen to her. And this is, like you said, that's a great example, Joe. This is a coming of age where she can now finally affect changes on her own. And I think that growth and that her turning into, you know, someone who's just wide-eyed and enthralled with the world because she's never seen it. She's only read about it. And turning her into, you know, someone who's not weary, but understanding her abilities and learning what she was intended to do is great. That's one of the best parts of this game, is watching her growth as a character. So I won't say anything bad about Elizabeth. I just think gameplay wise, her just constantly feeding you with ammo undercuts the nature of the immersive sim and what's fun about Bioshock in those games.
So one of the things that, like I said, I'm going to bring up constantly throughout this. Originally in the beta, she was supposed to have bigger powers, and I don't know why or how. It never really got into it, but she was basically supposed to be more powerful than anyone there.
Yes.
One of the abilities she had, which is what you get as a plasmid, she was able to like collect like all the metal around, and you were supposed to sit there and like pump, like basically make the metal super hot with whatever weapons you have, and then tell her when to throw it, and she throws it at a bunch of enemies. And I guess they cut it because I guess it was supposed to be a thing of, well, if she has plasmids that are just really, really strong, what's the point of you using yours? But then I guess if anything, they probably could have made it to where you as a character didn't have plasmids, but who knows where the hell that would have went.
And I think that would have been a great idea. That would have been really good. How fun would that be to actually team up with your partner to actually take care of the obstacles, as opposed to using her as a key, really, as she's just a key for different things. And again, a never-ending supply of salts, healths, and machine gun ammo. But maybe I could see them also saying, well, we don't want her to murder people and kill people. We want her to be solely support. But even then, you could have her do like defense type stuff. You know, you could have her some of like the tornadoes and whatnot. Like that, there's so much possibility in tears. Like I love the concepts of this game. There's lots of great concepts, just poor execution. That's the problem. And poor execution and poor whittling away at the different aspects because of time and money and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Also, coins were a lot more like I always had money in this game, which wasn't a thing in Bioshock 1 and 2 where I'm like I was buying med kits. And in this game, you have regenerated health. Or not, you have not regenerated health. You have a shield that's constantly regenerating. I don't think you can hold med kits either.
No.
I don't remember there being a button for med kit. At least if there was, I didn't know it.
No, you had to find them. And
I didn't like that either. There were I have a lot of issue with the gameplay of this game. I don't like the shield. I like the health system Bioshock 1 and 2 because it made you want to search for more because you had to heal yourself. Where in this game, it was kind of like, I just upgrade my shield enough so I don't have to worry about it.
Well, the shield is there because the game didn't think to tune the AI enough where everyone to make everyone a master sharpshooter from 1,000 miles away, because you are constantly getting hit with bullets in this game. It's almost like a Metroid game where it's so tanky, like you're just going to take damage. There's not much you can do, except Metroid Dread. You don't have to do that. But like an old school Metroid game where you just take damage, right? You just take damage, and it's kind of like this war of attrition. Because somebody sitting 300 yards away with a pistol is going to hit you right in the arm every time. So they make that shield to basically give you some buffer to realize, oh, I'm being shot. Let me run behind something, as opposed to knowing they're shooting at you and then defending yourself. But anyway, shield's fine. Whatever. I can't care.
I don't know. It bugged me for some reason.
Man, I sure love my Halo shield from, in Bioshock Infinite, and my 2-weapon system from every first-person shooter, and this girl who's the equivalent of an infinite bottomless bag. Love Bioshock.
Yes, my bag o' treats for the gamer. Lots of gamer treats.
That was another thing that kind of hurt the gameplay too. Like we were kind of saying, like, how she gives you everything you need whenever, you need it. And I just kind of was like,
But that was kind of where I was getting at with the streaming stuff. At the end with the shooting bullets into someone's face is innately a fun thing. Like, right? That's like primal thing. Like if the cavemen had this ability, that's the first thing they would do is just throw things at people's faces. So it's a primal thing. So when my brother-in-law was saying, "You're having fun," well, yeah, I got a machine gun and I'm shooting dudes in the face. It's innately an entertaining thing, but it's not necessarily good. And again, I was doing it on stream to be entertaining for other people who attended. Weren't that many, to be honest. So it really was just myself half the time. But I'm still doing that thing. I'd like to touch on Vigors, and then maybe we'll go on through the story. Vigors, which is in this game's plasmids.
They're not as good.
No, of course they're not. What was your favorite?
Can you guess mine?
It's electric.
Electric, yes. Okay. Electric was good. Electric's great. My number one, though, is Murder of Crows.
Yeah.
Crows are great. I like the crows. They're so good. I only use
electric. Once I get it, I didn't use anything before it, and I didn't use anything after it. I only like shocking people in Bioshock games.
Go ahead. Sorry.
The crow. To quote my lovely husband, because I also love the crows. Crows are just a bigger version of bees from Bioshock.
Yes. Bees were great. Crows are better because crows will cause damage, and I don't think you even need the upgrade for it. If you do, it's very easy because there's a vending machine full of upgrades that's available to anybody who lives in that world. Just go ahead, Colombian citizen, walk on up and get yourself some Murder of Crows and this enhancement. It'll turn them into traps. And since everything in this game, or I'll say 70% of this game is just a murder hallway that everyone has to walk in a straight line toward you, you just throw Murder of Crows, kill one person, they turn into a Murder of Crows trap. Everybody then turns into a Murder of Crows trap. Now you have a giant Murder of Crows trap, and you don't have to waste ammo on anything. You just sit there and watch them.
I should have played that way.
Yeah.
And if you set them on fire, it's really fun. You just
fire crows.
Murder crows, fire. Watch the hilarity ensue. I had to do that in the Comstock house, which we'll get there because we have to. I won't allow this show to stop unless we do. Which is one of the most horrendous levels of a game I've experienced in quite some time. It is, I don't want to say an abomination because that implies that it's like
a big green monster.
Yeah, yeah. But it is horrendous, that level. Anyway, that's
another complaint that I have is a me complaint. There was no giant arrow to point me where to go. I did not like that.
Everything's straight. I did not.
I still want my giant arrow.
There's one section where you do have to kind of take some branching paths.
I got lost multiple times in this game. You are right. There is a straight path, but I got lost multiple times.
There is an arrow button. If you hold like N, it'll shoot you an arrow to kind of tell you where to go.
Yeah, it's a Dead Space arrow. It's a Dead Space arrow.
Oh, Actually, the first time I played Dead Space, I didn't know about where you hold down the line, and I went through that whole game the first time without that, and it's much harder than it should be without it.
So we've reached full circle. Bill, I'm gonna bop you in the head with a wiffle ball bat. You are completely wrong, by the way.
Oh,
so you have to pay for vigors, correct?
Right.
So you can play every mini game in that carnival and still not have enough to buy Bucking Bronco.
Okay, but that also implies in the world that people have money because they're throwing in their trash. I guess they don't have money because they're throwing in trash for whatever reason. But there is a economy there where you could purchase those things just without playing the mini game. Like I can go to the carnival, not do the ball throw game, and still buy cotton candy. Like I don't know.
Oh yeah, sure too. But technically every vigor you get in this game is picked off of someone who's supposed to have it.
I think you're right. I think you are right on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Now just because you can buy the upgrade doesn't mean you have the vigor. Technically, in a weird Colombian civilian stance, you can buy upgrades for your weapons though. But then again, I firmly believe Colombia is the kind of place where everyone is fully strapped.
Yes, that's fine. I have no problem with there being an armaments vending machine. But I will argue, I do think there are some, because I did end up buying some plasmas towards the end because I was flush with cash, and I'm like, all right, I guess I'll just buy this thing now. Like I think you can buy Bucking Bronco, you can buy Undertow, which is useless. I mean, talk about a useless plasmid.
Yeah.
But the biggies, you have to find shock, you have to find the fireman drops fire.
Pros drop pros.
Pros got pros. Yeah, so you have a point. There is a point. But it's kind of funny in the fiction of that game though, where somebody like, ooh, a vending machine. What's all this stuff? How can I buy it's kind of like, I'm trying to think of a good example. I can't. I'll let you continue. But that's fair. I guess that's fair because they are mostly pickups. Yeah.
And also, which is actually you can find in a tape later on, which is funny. So small spoilers. They don't stay in your system, and salt, because it ironically use was it Eve in Bioshock?
Right.
Or Adam?
It was Adam was the stuff that got you to buy the plasma.
Eve
stuff,
was the blue thing you shoved in your vein.
Yeah, and then during one sequence, vigors are a knockoff of plasmids, but they require way too much because they don't want people injecting themselves and having the same thing that happens in Infinite. That's what the creation of salt is, which is basically them juicing the slugs and turning it into salts. And there's the only technically of several good story explanations. There's a recording of Fink saying, "I fucking hate having to use salt. I don't know why we can't inject themselves. It takes 3 times the slugs to make salt as opposed to just the one slug you use to make tons of different Eve injections. But you know what? That's what Comstock wants, so I have to do it." So there's the other explanation.
That's pretty cool. The salts are fine. I mean, again, that's fine. And some of this stuff I really can and should wave off as video game stuff. Right? We're playing a game. This is. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. And I'm trying not to be, Patrick Persnickety here, but it's, that's just it is what it is. And it's just to think when it comes to immersive sims, there needs to be a little more detail. That's just kind of the nature of the game. This is not Call of Duty where you do get shot 15 times, hide behind a wall, and then you're healed.
But it tries to be.
That's the problem.
Though.
That's the issue.
That's the problem.
You guys said earlier is that it really does feel like someone took what do gamers like? We're just going to put everything in the gamers like so one sells and, go away from our artistic vision, even though it sold Bioshock 1 and 2, I'm sure sold great. That also Dead Space 3 was 2013 too. So the death of series that year, I guess.
Oh, man. Okay, I was right. God, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And my wife actually asked a question. We can move on to like the last bit of mechanical stuff that's here. There's 2. There's a skyhooks, and then there's the stupid clothing system. Was Bioshock Infinite released around when steampunk really became a thing?
Yes.
Like a real, right?
Yeah.
Because I know this game has a lot of steampunk vibes to it. There was a bar here in Austin, Texas, that was here forever. And I forgot what it was called, but it closed down and turned into a steampunk bar. Like the whole thing was themed steampunk. And I have some self-respect, so I never went into it. I don't know. I have self-respect. I don't do that.
No, I mean, not that part, but why was it?
I don't know. It closed after like 2 years, as you would expect a steampunk bar to do. So I was thinking like,
there still is one.
Okay, well, so my question was like, is this because that was around this time? It was like around 2014 or so, 2013. So I was curious, like, was that when steampunk really started to become a thing? So because that also might have helped with the overwhelming praise of this game was the aesthetic, which the aesthetic is great, and I'm not gonna pretend it's not. It's everything looks really freaking cool. Songbird is my favorite thing. Oh, I adore Songbird. It's so cool. It's awesome. Big metal bird. It's great.
I know you're right because I actually think that same year I went to the Renaissance Festival in Texas, which is like a big ass Renaissance festival, and I went as steampunk Sora. So I matched the color clothing, had a bunch of chains, had made goggles and badges, and my cousin got me a actual full metal keyblade, and I was carrying that damn thing around all day. So yeah, steampunk was popular back then.
And for the record, Steampunk Saloon was not really steampunk. They just called it that, but they had 50 beers on tap at the time. I can tell you that much. Cool.
They basically trick people into walking into that place. And again, if anyone's into steampunk listening, I apologize. I honestly do. People have their fandoms, and that's cool. Actually, the aesthetic is pretty cool. So I don't want people to think like I was like dunking on steampunk as a aesthetic or a community. Trust me, I am not. So sorry. I was just trying to make a bad joke. So let's talk a bit about pants and shirts and hats. Did anyone care about this mechanic at all?
Yes, because some of them were really good.
I don't know. I always felt the upgrades were incremental, and there was one that I wore towards the end, and I just did it because I felt like I need to change my pants. And I was just trying to like try the different things. And it's one where if you killed somebody, if you overkill somebody, I think it was called overkill, they would electrocute everyone around them.
I had that one.
That saved my life in the last encounters. Because if it weren't for that, I would have been miserable. Because those last dungeons are airships, and then that final one where you just murder abolitionists by the thousands, because that's what we do in this game now. We murder people who have been oppressed, and we just kill them because why do we remember that whole side story about racism? We have cool things about terrorists to show you now. Let's just wheel this around like a child with a shotgun. Why would we care?
So you guys are gonna get mad at me. I complain about having to fight an enemy raid for like the last two Bioshock. I kind of like the final boss fight in this one. Not to like a really good like, oh, this is amazing kind of stint, but I was like, I'm having, this is a boss fight. And I think a lot of that has to do with the final mechanic they give you, which I won't spoil right now. Yeah. But I had a pretty okay time in that final fight. I was like, this is pretty cool. I'm liking this.
I remember loathing it when I first played it, but I was playing it on like PS3 with a controller. And I was getting murdered constantly. On mouse and keyboard, it was much more manageable. And with my overkill, I was able to get through it the first time. But even then, it was just, I found it tedious personally. But they really do. I mean, they do make an effort in that final area to give you all the things you could possibly do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll touch on that when we get there. But I don't know. I just never really. And actually, I don't know if you guys had this on your copies. I'm sure you did because you're playing on PC. When I walk into the initial room when I first meet the Lutesses, meet them, and they give you the shield. There's like treats galore. Like there are like there's like pants and upgrades, and infusions.
So that's from I believe it's either a pre-order bonus, or it was part of the season pass. And since I believe the BioShock Infinite is part of the like remaster edition or whatever.
Yeah, that's what we all played.
Yeah, the remaster. I played on PS5, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, which loading times were astounding. But what was it? Yeah, it's one of the things where it was like how EA kind of had it too, where with Dead Space, you could just buy a whole bunch, buy weapons that completely break the game. It was the same concept where like for $5 you could buy the starters, the completely break the game in the beginning, where you get like 3 upgrades, like 3 hats, 3 vests, 3 pants, 3 shoes.
Shoes is one of them. There, boots.
Yeah, it's boots, and then you get like 1,000 money, and then I think you all like the handgun, the shotgun have skins on them.
Yeah, yeah. The handgun is like is golden. It's like a golden eye. It's like a golden eye, golden gun.
You're the man with the golden gun.
Yeah. I don't know, which is fine. Again, I figured those were DLC bonesses, and I don't think you have to take them.
It was I took them. I mean, I was just wondering why they were there. I'm like, why is all this stuff here?
I think it's funny too, because of all the stuff there, I got a decent build, which people always say that there's a way to get a build to break the game in BioShock, which is funny that you mentioned that build, because the pants you got at the end of the game I found in the beginning, so I basically just cheesed my way the entire way through. And it's really weird if they randomize what you get, because like I guess it's supposed to be a way of, oh, every time you play the game, you'll get something different.
Oh.
But there's a build that you can get where like if you melee someone, you can like dash 30 feet towards them.
Yeah.
And like you add that with like I think I had a top hat that whenever you hit someone, it does like 300% damage and sets them on fire.
Yeah.
I got the overkill one to where if you hit someone, they it stuns enemies.
Yeah.
And then my boots were like something about if I get shot in the ass too many times, I run faster. So
Right. It was. I always felt like whenever there's upgrades like that, I always look for anything that's meaningful for what I am right now, and I would receive something, and it was either melee, and there's a lot of melee upgrades if I
Yes,
remember
there are.
correctly, and I don't melee. So for me, it was like, okay, well, I don't engage in that mechanic. I'd rather shoot somebody that's 15 feet away than hit him with my stick or hit him with my hook. So I guess for me, and I guess I can't knock on it too much. I think it's ridiculous in the world. Again, like this is a ridiculous concept that there are pants you can buy that allow you to run faster if someone shoots you in the ass 5 times. Like that's nonsensical and stupid. But I just never found myself engaging in it. And again, the few times I did, I never noticed big differences. Right? I'd rather stop rather than stop and take care of something and then run. So for me, it wasn't a big deal. And I guess it's good that people do enjoy that and can do that loadout, which is good, and you want that in this kind of game. But for me, I just felt A, it was ridiculous for the world it was in, and B, never had anything for me except for when I said overkill. What's that? And even the description wasn't great. Like if you kill someone too much, you shock them. I'm like, well, how do you do that? But I guess with my carbide and doing headshots, because again, I'm on mouse and keyboard, I'm just plinking heads like it's nobody's business. I guess that's considered an overkill, and that would shock everybody. And it was really great. I mean, that was choice.
So I found a really good one towards the end, which actually would have benefited you, Bill, where every time you kill an enemy, your gun doubles in damage, and it does that up to 5 times. And your gun would just be burning red hot, and that's how you knew you were at the max. So at the end of the game, so when I was at the end of the game, I had overkill and that, so I was just shooting enemies, and then they would die, and then they would kill everyone around them, and my gun would already get to the max where it's supposed to be, and I'm just shotgunning people in the chest and like just killing them instantly.
That's amazing. I did not discover that. So that sounds amazing. Yeah. I think and since it's random and I didn't realize that either, maybe I just, RNG'd a bunch of melee stuff, which I don't use. So
I got a lot of melee stuff too.
That's fair. I mean, that's fair. Okay.
I wasn't a big fan of the clothes mechanic because I know it's replacing where you get the plasmids and 1 and 2 where you upgrade yourself different ways. It wasn't the same. It wasn't. And plus you can't really I never knew how to change clothes. Like I would just put on whatever I got. I never knew how to look at what my inventory was to change it up.
The start button.
I never pressed that much. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's a me problem.
Like that, yeah.
But I was happy with what I had, so I didn't care. But
yeah,
it was just one of those. I didn't like it. I didn't like the concept of it. I would have rather had plasmids. It was just a lot of things in this game that I did not like on the gameplay aspect.
So as much as I do like making fun of putting on clothing that lets you blow people's heads up, I also don't like it to an extent because there's a lot of times where I found this hat that, does increase damage like this way, but then it would also be but then I have to replace the hat where if I kill someone, I get more health. So, but as opposed to in Bioshock 1 and 2, where it's I have a way to where I can pick and choose what I want and have a really good build setup.
Right. Yeah, it definitely has a lot of that. Yeah, it's fine. Also, in the end, it gives you 4 slots. Really, that's what it is. They're just enhancement slots. Mm-hmm. Where in Bioshock, you can of course purchase more and more and more, so you can actually build out, through that risk reward. Hey, I'm going to buy more gene tonic slots so I can actually fill this out with more abilities. You're kind of picking and choosing. And the game doesn't give you an elegant way of picking and choosing. You got to go into a menu, go over to the thing, pick the thing, cycle through the hats and shirts and pants and shoes. You're not quite sure what it does. There's a lot of tax involved with doing that. I'm not saying there isn't. In Bioshock, you have to actually go to a gene swapping thing. Is that right? If I'm right,
yeah,
right?
You do.
Yeah. So you go to a place where you're going to do that. And different approaches, and I can't kill either one for it. Neither one is terribly elegant, but yeah, it's fine. I'll come back for my pants annoyance now. I'll come back.
No, it's. I mean, the fact that they're random, I don't really like that they're random. I didn't realize that. That does kind of bug me. I was wondering why I had such good equipment right in the get-go. That was also kind of making me wonder, too. But now I know it's a pre-order bonus. That makes more sense. I was just really confused. I'm like, why am I getting such great equipment immediately? I'm like,
I assume that's kind of what I say. It was like, oh, okay. Also, too, when you walk into that area, it's this game stops you and keeps giving you alerts like, hey, you got this. Hey, this thing. Hey, this thing. It's like,
yeah.
Clearly, this is all DLC I purchased with my $7 investment into the entire Bioshock series. So, okay.
Yeah, we all bought the Bioshock collection, which is a great deal.
You should. I mean, you should.
I have the Bioshock collection for PC, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and replay it again with and go look up some mods so I can have all the upgrades for the tonics and everything, because you really do miss out on some really good, and it's all because you don't have enough money, and also with gun upgrades too. What is it? I also got it for free on PlayStation Now, and I was like, I don't feel like playing on my computer in my cold ass basement where it was like -3 degrees the other day. So I'm just gonna play on my couch.
PC is the way to play this, though.
I will never play this game again. This is it. This is closed the Bioshock Infinite chapter in my life.
We haven't talked about the Skyhook yet, did we?
No, we haven't. Let's hit Skyhook, and then maybe we'll start going through the story.
Yeah, we'll get there. You were not wrong about this being a long one, though.
3 hours. Called it.
With the Skyhook, I don't like it at all. It really bugged me in this game. Like, I just didn't like the fast travel or having to use, there were times where I forget it exists. I'm like, oh, I gotta go do this to get over here. I'm like, I would have rather not had it in this game. It wasn't something that I didn't enjoy. I mean, yes, it's cool that you have to traverse, so you can traverse a large arena to get around and get different views and take out other enemies, but I just didn't enjoy it as a thing. Yeah,
so in essence, the Skyhook's supposed to be what makes it different from Rapture. And funny enough, originally it wasn't supposed to be a big hook. It was supposed to be an Assassin's Creed hidden gauntlet thing, and you're supposed to have a pipe. But why they changed it, I guess, because it was just an easier way to combine having a melee weapon in your way of getting around. Mm-hmm. I like the idea. But it also one of the things where it's like, with actions you have consequences. So you have to have the Skyhook. We have to have fast-paced gameplay where you're running around this hook and you can jump towards people and they slowly see you coming at them 5 miles an hour and then hit them in the face.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, first off with the Skyhook, they say it's magnetic. They set that up. That's a magnetic Skyhook that attaches to the thing. Fine. What I don't understand is how he can leap like Superman 100 feet to latch onto a Skyhook and then start immediately going. Like that thing's just, there's no friction, there's no ramp up, just again, it's fun. Viscerally fun, I guess. I never found it all that interesting too, and they don't make sense in the world they live in. I get it. You have to get goods and such from place to place because they're all floating balloons. I get it, right? They're all floating cities, and that's cool, and that's great, fantastic. But why do they have to have roller coaster downswings? And other than the fact that's cool, because roller coasters are inherently cool. They're neat.
It's a video game.
It's video game, right? But again, and that's why this is not a good Bioshock game. If I saw that in a Call of Duty game, I would just say, all right, well, I guess it's just cool. Whatever. World War V military man goes on crazy rail system. But again, Bioshock has got to work within the constructs of the game. That's why this is an immersive sim. I'm going to say it 100 times. Skip ahead 30 seconds if you hear me going on again, audience.
I don't think this one's much as an immersive sim as 1 and 2 are. This is more just a straight up shooter.
It's a first-person shooter.
Story.
It's a first-person shooter with a heavy narrative. Yeah, it's a narrative-heavy first-person shooter.
Yeah,
and that's what's just so disappointing about it, because this probably could have been. And we'll talk more about it as we go through it, and I'll point out where it could have been. This is like a house that's falling apart, but as a realtor would say, it's got good bones. This house has got good bones. It really does. There's some good stuff here. The time traveling stuff's actually good if you thought it through for more than a week. No, it's not.
It's not that much time travel. It's more of dimension hopping.
No, there's a little bit of time travel.
There's time travel. Time travel, dimension hopping, whatever.
More dimension hopping, I would say, than time, because you have. We're not there yet, but we'll get there.
That stuff is promise, and then even if you had a brain in your head, the racial stuff, you can do that in a game, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
But not in the slapdash shitty way you did it here, sir. Anyway, yeah.
Should we talk about enemies? We haven't really talked about the enemies yet.
But before we get enemies, Bill, you want to get super mad?
Yes. I'm not.
So no, this actually made me mad too. They actually had an explanation. You were supposed to have these accordion scissor lift shoes that was actually supposed to launch you up in the air and hook you onto the Skyhook, but they felt like it would take too long to animate it, so they cut it out and just said that the Skyhook was magnetized.
it's just beyond the pale. Like that is just, and that's a big problem with this game too. We didn't really get into the development. I didn't read up on it a lot, but I've heard through the grapevine this was a disaster development.
I read up on the development a lot for this.
Yeah,
so.
I was hoping someone would. Yeah, I just ran out of space and headspace for it. But this was a disastrously, like this went terribly. This is a 5-year development cycle, I think. From what I understand, there's a lot of people, as happens in games, that if you start a game but you don't finish it, you don't get on the credits. That is a thing that happens in games all the time, which means if you were one of the original people and all of a sudden there's a giant turnover because Ken Levine got a cranky ass and is like, no, forget it. Just want all new art developers because he's the auteur and that's what auteurs can do. You evidently don't get credit on the game because you weren't on the final team, which sucks because if you're trying to get more work and other gigs, you need those credits. Yeah, horribly shitty. So I think some of that happened here. It took forever. There was 100 revisions, 100 cuts. Enemies that if you read about on paper sound actually really cool in the game are just beyond the pale disastrous. So that's very interesting. You mentioned spring shoes. Like she's basically backward shell from Portal. Instead of softening your blow, it can spring up. Okay.
Oh, they soften your blow too, apparently, as well.
Right. Oh, see. Okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So they removed that and they said, all right, he's just a magnet man, and all of these people have the arm strength to hold themselves aloft on this thing, and their arms don't rip off. Clearly, like these everyday policemen who have these because they're walking around like, hey, see this new thing I got? They can actually just run around and traverse the skyhooks without their arms falling off because everyone can do that. And handle a machine gun in the same and handle a machine gun and then somehow tell your skyhook to disconnect. Like, I don't know, maybe there's a button, I guess.
There's buttons on it.
Button, okay, fine. The button.
Yeah, there was a which of course, little 20-year-old Joe couldn't afford it. There was tons of like special editions of this stuff. They actually had tonic bottles for sale at GameStop, and they had a full 1-for-1 replica of the skyhook, which of course, as a kid I'd be like, oh, that's so cool. But as an adult, I'm like, I think I'd rather spend my money on something a little bit cooler.
Yeah, like for me, like diapers. That's what I get to spend my money on. Kevin. my daughter ate like 4 eggs today. What are you doing, girl? Like, God, she was funny. She was like 3 eggs and a piece of toast with peanut butter. She was glomming. That's what I get to spend my money on, not really rad skyhooks. And let's be fair, the design of these things are, for the most part, really cool. Everything looks really freaking cool in this game, for the most part. So visually, it's astounding, and that's why people like this game. Not saying they're basic. I'm not immune to the charms of a coolly designed, rotating saw that you can lop someone's head off. Right? I'm a human being, but in the world, kind of stupid, just kind of dumb.
And the other thing I want to talk about is the enemies in this game. I mean, most of them are pretty simple, just your normal shooter fodder. They're just guys with guns.
Yeah.
So there's not you change as the story progresses, who you're fighting, policemen, Vox, different enemies. You also have like special type enemies. You have like the crow guys who use the crow, not plasmid, but tonic.
They have a crow ability. Yeah.
You have them. You have firemen who use a fire ability. And that was really, and then you have the Patriots, which are robotic. I couldn't really understand if the handymans or the Patriots are supposed to replace the big daddies.
Yes.
I didn't really get what they were. The handymen are just really you only fight a couple and they're really, really annoying because they're strong as hell too.
They're really annoying because, which is really weird that I've always thought about this game. Their weakness is on the back, but your shock jockey never stuns them long enough for you to run around them and shoot them in the back.
It's one of the most annoying things, which is why I kept an RPG with me, because I just shot them in the head 4 times and they were dead. Because what the game wants you to do is kind of strafe around them to shoot them in the back, but they're always way too fast. Like you can't get around them. And it's not like you have like a teleport ability, like a Dishonored, where you can like teleport behind them. Imagine that. How cool that'd be? Like teleport behind them, shoot them in the back, or pull out their thing. That's cool. That's fun. That's immersive. That's options. So I just hit him with my rocket launcher 4 times, and I didn't want to engage. I remember when I played back in 2013 how annoying they were. Because like you said, Joe, the idea is to go around and shoot them in the back for more damage, but they're always faster than you, and shock doesn't give you enough time. So
yeah, I would just shoot them in the face with shotguns when I had them. I mean, handymans, I would just run for my life and try to get any shots I could. But the Patriots, it did amuse me how the Patriot robot are different things. Give me 1 second.
Fine.
I remember what it is. The ones that Comstock owns are George Washington, but the ones that the Vox use have little devil horns, and they're Abraham Lincoln.
Are they? I was going to ask, 'cause at the end, okay, so that answers a big question for me, because at the end, when you're murdering all the Vox, because that's what this game wants you to do, they're using Patriots, and I'm like, how are they using Patriots?
Because there's
Like,
different.
are they
Patriots.
different? Okay, they say
I'm assuming.
programmed
I'm
with
assuming they just
Patriots. Okay.
hijacked them essentially.
Because I was watching, like, wait a minute, but these are all like Comstock robots. Like, how come the Vox are using Comstock robots against me? And I didn't notice it had a different face on it, like like you say, Abraham Lincoln. So I guess they could have gotten it from a seller. Okay, I'll walk off of that one then.
took
That
it
was a big
more
question of
as-
mine. I was just like, I don't understand how I'm shooting Patriots, other than the fact that fighting poor Patriots at once is really hard, and this is the final encounter. Okay, I'll walk off from that. All right.
I always just took it as they just reprogrammed them in the robots.
Yeah, I mean, they're smart people. They're intuitive.
Yeah.
I mean, plus, you come from a thing where a guy basically hires smart people to make him stuff. Of course, he's not going to know how to program them himself.
That's fair. That's pretty fair. I'll walk with that. Oh, you know what I'm going to say, Mike. Smart people doing smart things. That's it. That's it.
It's been a while since we had that one on here.
Check it off your bingo card, y'all. Smart people doing smart things.
I don't get it.
Yeah, and then we have the handyman. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, listen to our Marvel episodes. We used to say it a whole bunch back then.
It became a bit of a running joke on the Marvel episodes, where I'm always enamored in any sort of media when smart people do smart things, because it doesn't happen as often as you think it would, especially in like a Marvel movie or an action movie. I just like that. When Tony Stark is making his Iron Man suit, he's a smart person doing smart things. I love that. It's cool. It's really fun to watch. So anyway, and then the handyman, I think those are kind of sort of, there's no replacement for the Big Daddy here. Like,
they're just big bosses.
Patriots are, and that's just a big, and you fight like 4 of them. The design and the conceit of the handyman is really cool. I like the idea of somebody who, I guess towards the end of their life, agrees to stay alive, but they're in this kind of like metal monster suit. I don't know if they're weaponized by then, Comstock or Fink or anybody else.
Comstock, I assume.
I guess they're weaponized. I don't know why they'd agree to that sort of thing. There's a really good voxophone where a woman is bemoaning her husband becoming a handyman, but she's glad she's alive or something like that. It was actually good.
I think it's more of just people aren't
just
ready to go.
I guess. And it was just, there is a reason they actually state it. I just don't remember. And it's the way to defeat those guys, murder of crows. They stop and they wave the crows around their head, which exposes the juicy orange bit in their chest. And then you shoot them a bunch in the juicy orange bit. And then you shoot murder of crows again.
Is
juicy
that
orange bit. Yep,
is that how you're supposed to do that? Because there's an achievement that everyone kept complaining about that you couldn't get back in the day, where you have to shoot the handyman in the chest with the hand cannon like 30 times. Yep. And I thought you had to stun them with shock jockey. It never worked. So,
and if you're actually engaging on them, after a while they start covering their juicy bit, and they kind of cover it, which actually is smart. And actually also too, because again, I would just fire RPGs. Yeah, I would do again murder of crows RPG, and then within 5 shots, they were toast. But they will also shock your lines, the skyhooks. So you can't just run away on the skyhook and just circle them, because they will jump up and actually shock you off of that. It's a defense you have. So really, the game is telling you, you just got to stand toe to toe with this person that you can't melee. That I don't think you can shock. I just use crows. Fire is not really effective. Yeah, so there's certain things where the game says not effective. You're limiting your toolkit, so you just have to like stand there and shoot them and hope she throws you more salts. That's really what these are. They're a terrible boss design. It's just like you said, they're kind of like the brute splicers in 2. Or sorry, was it 2 or was that
it's
in
2? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't like the brute splicers. I think they're boring to fight as well.
They are.
So it's just a giant brute splicer, but that is the pro strat. Murder crows in the face, they wave their arms around, and then you just shoot their orange globe.
I just really didn't like them. But yeah, they're few, so it's not terrible, but they just bugged me.
So originally, the handymen were supposed to be the big daddies of this game, which they kind of changed and then didn't follow up with it because of something else, which we'll get into because of the story important. But there were supposed to be like 5 different kinds of handyman. There was supposed to be one like the ones you see now. There's supposed to be ones with big crab claws, guys that shoot out fire and things like that. But they're just like, no, we can't sit there and spend time making these big ass enemies. They just ran out of time and ran out of money, and it's such a shame. And that's why this game for me is more disappointing than angering, because it could have been fantastic. That sounds cool. Different types.
That does.
Yeah. Of course it does. They had lots of cool ideas, and that's why I can't even kill the developers, because y'all had really cool ideas, but I could kill you from a few things, but for as far as the design and play, this was supposed to be a lot more fun and not just a shooting gallery. And due to time and money, it became a shooting gallery. And that's sad. That's really unfortunate.
Well, since we're here, and I decided it's gonna probably, if y'all don't know about it, it's gonna increasingly upset y'all. When this game actually had choices that matter, you were supposed to have scripted sequences where you were supposed to fight Songbird.
Oh, come on.
And that was actually supposed to be what affected your gameplay throughout the game, because Elizabeth, which I was going to say for the story, but it's a little bit, not that big of a spoiler. Songbird is Elizabeth's, caretaker. And so what it was is there was supposed to actually be sneaking sections, and it's kind of in the game too, where like there's times where like you can walk into a store and go behind the counter and steal money, and the guy's like, "You took my money," and a bunch of cops run in. Those were supposed to be sequences you can where you choose to make a disturbance or not, where depending on how much stuff you needed. But if you did, Songbird would show up, to which then Elizabeth would be like, "Please don't shoot my friend in the face. I love him, and it's really rude for you to do that, Booker." And if you did, because technically she had what was essentially souped up plasmids, her helping you would affect you less. So you wouldn't get bigger explosions or a tornado. You just get the simple like electricity and small explosions and stuff like that, to which that was actually supposed to maybe affect the ending. But who knows, because that whole sequence was scrapped, because I would have loved to have a Nemesis type Songbird in that game.
I'm assuming timing.
Yeah, and you mean have choice and agency, and things happen and interact and react to what you do in the world? That sounds great. You mean
now that in itself is explained through the story, which I do believe I have an explanation for, but we'll get to it when we get there.
Yeah. So I think we're ready to go to the story, Mike. What do you think?
We should. I want to say what Columbia is, though, first, and then Columbia is a floating city that was created by the Lutek twins. That is up above where Comstock, the main villain of the game, had started a society of perfect, or try to be. It's kind of like Rapture, but in the sky.
Yeah.
It's built on the ideas of American exceptionalism. He was war hero, I suppose. I forget. Yeah, he was a war hero. We'll see how that works out. He gets very involved in the government in the United States. He decides to build this monument to, again, American exceptionalism. This is supposed to be for the United States to kind of float around the world and show everyone how great America is, because if you're born in the United States, you're immediately awesome. You're the best in the world. We're the best. That's how that works, evidently, according to them, which is actually
1912 for you.
Yes, 1912 it happens now too. Unfortunately,
yes, it does.
Plenty of people that still have that same mindset. So, what the idea was, like you said, Mike, is they built this city in the sky. I don't remember exactly how he fell out of favor with the United States, but Comstock has very backwards views, race, religion. Oh, go ahead, go for it.
Yeah. So, it was the Boxer Rebellion. What it was Comstock was like, I have this big city that floats. Look at it. We sell cotton candy and we sing songs that no one's ever heard of before because of reasons and all this other stuff. And then the Boxer Rebellion happens and they're like, oh man, we're kind of losing. What do we do? Comstock literally goes, hey, check this shit out, and flips a button and launches a bunch of basically fire bombs during the Boxer Rebellion. And they're like, the government's literally like, Comstock, you fucking lied to us. That's not a vacation city. That's just a big weapon. Yeah, for America. And they're like, we can't have that, dude. And that's why he left.
Oh,
and he literally secedes from the Union as if they're a state. I mean, you can't really secede if you're not a state, but that's kind of how they put it. They secede from the Union. He built his own little paradise in the sky where he is the prophet, because everything he says inevitably comes true. We find out how he's doing so later on, but that's why everyone now in Colombia reveres him as a god. He's like a god figure. He's the prophet, or he's connected to God in some way.
He's not Jesus.
He's not Jesus. He's not Sky Jesus. He's God. He's not Sky Jesus, because that would work.
This game goes a lot on religion and political. Like, it's very based, I can see the future, so I am God, and and this is how everybody worships him, and he's a terrible person though too.
He's an awful person.
I mean, not even the racism and everything else. He's just a terrible person. I mean, his people you see as you travel through Colombia are suffering terribly, and he don't give a shit.
Oh, that's what it was. So originally in the beta, which is where choices mattered originally, very originally, Comstock was supposed to be a middle-aged man, not this older man, which alludes to something later, but it was supposed to be Comstock against Stalinstall, which originally the concept for the game for the choices and matters and stuff is that Comstock was supposed to be a very religious, praise God, we're doing the government's God things, and the other person that was going against him because they were originally when you walked in, Colombia was supposed to be having its first ever who's running for president for Colombia was against a dude named Stalinstall because Comstock alludes to someone in actual American government, and Stalinstall obviously has connections to communist propaganda. It was supposed to be them competing against each other over who would rule Colombia. And that's why the Vox Populi exists, because they had a bunch of red themed stuff. Yeah, and a lot of red weapons and things like that.
Uh-huh.
And originally, which makes me super mad, there was no religion in this game. The fighting point of this game was supposed to be those two people, and it was supposed to be against politics over what was better, a government that has religion or a government that is communist. And what the big fighting point was that Elizabeth, through Comstock's side, was like, oh, she's magical. She has these abilities. She can cure the sick and fix things and blah, blah, blah. While Stalinstall and the Vox Populi saw her as oh my God, she's a witch. We have to burn her at the stake. And that's where the conflict would also come from, which was, we're safer on the religious side, Elizabeth, but they're kind of fucking weirdos, or we're going to go over here where everyone wants to literally burn you at the stake.
That sounds so good. I mean, you mean battling ideologies,
Yes, it was.
Which is kind of what Bioshock is all about. I mean, that's really, Bioshock 2 is all about, Lamb versus Ryan. Like, that's the setup, y'all. Like, oh, man, that was good.
I blame Kevin Levine actually for that, because there's also a statement where he says he's never going to make a game about Bioshock, about the Civil War, because he wants that to remain a mystery. So I feel like that has to be a thing where it's like, we can't do Bioshock 1 and 2 again. Let's just make the religious stuff racist.
It's so come on. Oh boy, the way he bungled the racism in this game, I'm sure if I'd want him to give the Civil War a shot.
Well, this is the last game he made, it looks like, because Rational Games hasn't made anything since 2013.
Yeah. No, well, not the Civil War. It's the Civil War in Rapture.
Right.
Yeah, he came out in an interview that was like, I'm never making a game about that if they ever give me an opportunity to. I want that to remain a mystery. And I'm just like, let me load up the double barrel shotgun. And
why? It sounds interesting and good. I would love to see what happened in that Civil War.
Same.
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Because Rapture is definitely a much more interesting world than Columbia.
It's the racism.
Well, Columbia's so we can talk about Columbia as a setting. So we'll just quickly go through how Booker gets to Columbia.
That's a story. We'll just go through the story.
Let's go.
Yeah.
That's a story. He goes through. It's a lighthouse. He goes up. He shoots up into the sky. He solves a very, very straightforward puzzle, which Bioshock loves to pretend is a puzzle. Here's the paper. Hit the buttons on the. It's my egg destroying daughter could handle that one with no problem. She's 1.5. Like, that girl would be fine.
Now, to be fair, the only thing I do like about the intro, because it's really funny, you get a prelude to he doesn't row. What do you mean he doesn't row?
Yes.
He does not row. I think it's funny, but you're supposed to already get like a weird, like, what am I walking into kind of thing of going up the lighthouse and there's a dude tortured to death, and what is it, like, notes drawn about, surprisingly no voxophones, but just all this weird stuff that's put together. And then you get, which is my the lucky moment of being tipped over to empty out your pockets, and thankfully only your gun falls out and not the key. That's the most important part of this adventure. And then you get launched into the sky, which is honestly pretty terrifying. It's very opposite, which this game does do a lot, and I at least appreciate that. It does do a lot of like, this is supposed to be Rapture, but not. And you do the whole floating above the city and being introduced to the first look of it floating around.
Yeah. That opening sequence is really, once you start launching in, I mean, it's fine. And all of it's pretty cool. It's good atmosphere building. You launch into the sky and you see you see Columbia in all of its glory, and it really is stunning. It's gorgeous. I mean, it's just such an imaginative, interesting world. I mean, the first hour or so, or maybe two, is what everyone remembers. Again, they remember the beauty of Columbia, and then they remember the baptismal font, and then somehow you end up in, I don't know, on Columbia, but whatever. We'll go there. And then everyone remembers this stuff, and all this stuff is for the most part's good. Anything in Columbia is cool as a city and as a conceit. It's a very interesting and beautiful area. You do not land on Columbia, though. At least you don't think. You land someplace to walk through a shrine to Comstock. You kind of get the exposition dump, Lady Comstock. You get the Comstock. You have all these candles, a bunch of Comstock followers, and you do this whole baptismal font thing. I never understood this, like, because why do you need to be cleansed of your sins before you go to, I guess that's the religious piece of it that was hammered in poorly, by the way. Go ahead.
It's supposed to be very religious, and it's supposed to be kind of like a very beautiful thing. It's also supposed to kind of give you the thing of like things aren't right here, but also kind of give you of something's going on here, and I can't put my finger on it. Like they believe like, was it George Washington and all them are all like not just political figures, but like godly figures. You know, they have the statues of them holding the key and the what is it, the key, the sword, and the scroll, which I never got, but
no, they don't explain that at all. The key, the sword, and the scroll. You're right, though. It's I think three of them. I think it's certainly not Lincoln. Ugh. It's Washington, Franklin, and Jefferson. I'm pretty sure those are the three. Yeah, and they're kind of like the Holy Trinity, you know, like figures or stand-ins. Yeah,
they are.
But all they are, and and that's all pretty good. Like if you're gonna go that route, you can go religious route. You know, I know a good amount about that stuff, so I can, you know, go that route. That's fine. I'm into that. You know, you're now deifying these. You know, as the player, you're like, why are these, you know, founding fathers deified? Like, where am I? You know, that's good. That's really good. It's all good stuff, I think. You wander around through Columbia and everyone stares at you with weird, you know, Unreal Engine faces, which is...
I did like the fact that you have a good, like, half an hour of gameplay where you don't shoot anybody. You're just wandering around trying to figure out what the hell you're doing. That was a cool aspect.
Yeah. So I have a very important question for you, storyline-wise, for both of you.
Okay.
You walk into town, right? You walk into this nice town. Everything's nice. Everything's pretty. You turn the corner and there's a big sign that says, hey, did you know that Satan has a tattoo on his hand? And if you see him, we're all doomed. And you look down and you magically have that same tattoo on your hand. You think you would put a fucking glove on it some point?
Oh, yeah. Immediately.
Yeah, of course.
Like he has a little like cummerbund or like a scarf around his neck, which gets in he's wearing it on the poster of the game.
Yes, he is.
You would think he would take that off and wrap around his hand and be like, oh man, I probably should put my hand in my pocket this whole fucking time.
Hey, dopey idiot moron, do it. That's why I don't like, he's a fucking idiot in this whole game.
Yeah, because he just would have put the scarf on.
You're right. Put the scarf on, yes, because he looks at it, and so you, the gamer, can see it. Oh, AD. Oh well, better be careful around here. Better be careful. Weird. There's nobody in the shops. All this world. Another problem with Columbia. There's a problem with Columbia. I like it, but there's a problem. It's not lived in. Nothing's lived in. Everything's. I know, because they're all at the raffle, right? They're all at the fun fair and the raffle. Fine, but even so, like nothing feels lived in, and that's, I think, more of a feel thing for me. I just felt like it was going on from set to set. But dude, there's no one here. Run into like a clothing shop and grab a shawl, like you said, if you don't want to remove your own because it matches your look, you know, because let's be honest, you know, and throw it around your arm and go. Clearly that's going to be a problem. Clearly you're not meant to be there. I don't like, I understand what the explanation behind it, but I think it removes the lived in feel of Rapture, again, which is the fun part of an immersive sim. It's a lived in world you experience through interactions. And Bioshock's brilliant because Bioshock's this wrecked, ruined city, but it's filled with splicers and creatures, you know, and that's cool because it's lived in. There's one scene in this whole game where it felt like it was an immersive sim moment, and when we get there, I'll talk about it. But other than that, like, there's never a moment where I'm like, "Ooh, I'm playing a game." Like, I'm in level world. You know, it's highly disappointing. It's very gamey, and that's, I think, probably a symptom of how many cuts they had to make and how many sacrifices.
Oh yeah, totally.
So anyway,
we should talk about the raffle. The raffle is just.
Do we have to? Do we have to? We really have to talk about
it's a key point when everything goes to hell for the character, but it's so stupid. So you go to this raffle, you pick a pick a number or something, and then you all have a baseball. It's a baseball, right? With a number on it.
Yeah,
To
it's a
which-
baseball.
Okay.
To which you get a telegram from some mysterious figure that says, "Hey, don't pick ball 77. If for any reason you pick it, just don't get it." And he gets the ball and goes, 77. And the girl even goes, "That's a lucky number." All he has to do is go, "Hey, kid, you want this? Cool, bye."
Yeah.
It's like,
Because if-
or just slowly back away like Homer Simpson into a hedge. Like that's you can do that too.
And it's just so stupid because like he gets this, and the whole raffle is they have this biracial couple that are going to be murdered for being biracial. I think is what it was.
Yes.
They were,
So-
yeah.
You're supposed to stone them with baseballs. Like it's just unnecessary. And then because you can either choose to throw it at them or throw it at the commentator. I chose the commentator, of course, but he doesn't get to throw it because they stop him because like, oh, look at your hand, because you never wrapped the scarf around your hand. We see, and then that's what they start chasing after you because of that. And it's just stupid.
Honestly, there's nothing more funner and like more hilarious because you literally murder a man in front of like a good 100 people, to which preludes to you being the Antichrist. But like just the really cool segment of him throwing a ball up in the air, everyone going, "Huh?" And then them wiggling the thing in your face because he's obviously threatening you with it, and then slamming another guy's head into it, and then everyone just disperses like, "Oh yeah, this totally proves I'm not the Antichrist." Picks up chainsaw.
It's this whole thing is this game treats racism and a racial society, right? Because we lived in a racist society. We still live in a racist society to a certain
Yes,
extent.
we
It's
still
just
do.
way more low key, obviously. It's more systematic. But of course, like
More low key now.
well,
it wasn't
now,
a
I'll say
couple
now.
years
Well, yeah. But I mean, there's still obviously elements of that in our societies now. So the idea of a racist society should not be foreign to anybody and is fine. All right. You can do that, but you can't, and this is one of my big tent poles of why I don't like this game. You can't use racist imagery and racist verbiage, which this game does all the time, and racist propaganda and constantly throw in our face for freaking 10 hours. We get it, and not comment on it. This is never commented on. This is used like a late 90s morning shock jock, right? Would like get some girl on the radio and hey, like that's what this is used like. It's for shock value. You're not supposed to go there. You're not learning anything about the society. It's intended to be like, oh, now you know what the society is all about. That's why there's nothing but white people around. Oh, wow, this is terrible. And if you do this in this fashion, fine. Okay, it's supposed to be gross. It's supposed to be disgusting. The game won't let you throw the baseball at the actual couple. Someone stops you because they see your mark on your hand because you didn't put a scarf around it. So the game will not let you do that. Thank God. Thank God it won't let you. The only reason any sane person would do that is to see if the game would let them, right? Like, is this game going to let me do this? And hit the button. It's never commented on. It's used as a backdrop and it's used for shock value. And it's because this whole thread goes away. It just disappears.
Because
2/3
you go
of
to
the
a different
game.
world.
Well, no, because now we're talking about tears and time travel and all the stuff people remember about this game.
You didn't need the racist stuff.
And I go ahead. I'm just one more quick thing and I'll let you go,
Yeah.
Joe. I'm sorry. It's just doing it like this in this ugly, gross, disgusting way. If you're going to go that route, you have to be responsible enough to comment on it and follow it through to where it's logical end. And the logical end is not the people who are being oppressed are just as bad as those the oppressors. That's not a thought that should be in your head. I'm sorry. It's not a thought.
There's a line in the game that simply says, both sides, which I have a comment about later. I'll hopefully read, where it's like both sides are the same because they're murder. I mean, they're not.
They're not. You know who writes
I think
that?
it's supposed to be that that the extremes are bad at everything. Yes and no. I mean, in this case, you have people who are being, starved to death because you have a part where you open up a tear and then all of a sudden they see food and they're just stuffing their face in food.
Uh-huh.
Like these people are being just used by the factory worker, owner. And there's even one point where the guy's like, "We only pay you with money for the company store because the company store is all you need." It's like that was a thing in the 1920s, outlawed. I think maybe earlier, but it was outlawed and it's terrible. But it's this huge consumption, and yes, they eventually, rebel against their oppressor because they're being oppressed. You have people who are living with this great technology and living a very free life, and you have people who are starving to death when you obviously have food, as it shows you earlier. There's like the Hunger Games idea where people are suffering. It's just unnecessary, and that's where like there's a lot of comments that don't need to be. Like there's another stupid comment where at one point Elizabeth asked Booker, "What are you scared of?" "I'm scared of you." Like it's just so stupid.
I like that line.
Because she can open up tears and she can go to different worlds. The whole idea is that you're opening different portals, but it's just dumb.
Joe, you're going to say something on it.
Yeah, so I kind of get and kind of don't. The one thing I can agree, which is really, really bad, and we'll get into it when we come up to it because of what it is. I don't completely agree on the whole like, oh, if you do what your oppressors do, you're just as bad as them. No, they kind of deserve it. But I don't really feel like it's one of the things where the racism in this stuff is really weird. But it's also one of the things too of I have to keep remembering this is the 1912s. Like this is 1900. This is early 1900s, 1910 to 1920. Stuff was pretty that bad back then. So it's one of the things of like, well, this game kind of gets a pass on it because I get to the point of, well, it has to have something wrong here. But at another point, I have stuff from the beta. I have works and wikis and stuff from the beta where, oh no, it wasn't going to be racist. It was just going to be where religion is really weird and religion is bad when you spin it in a bad way. It's like, you really could have just done that. Like you really could have had it to where it was, which is still racist in itself. You could have had it to where you have two people pulled up who aren't Christian. And then that's why they're going to be pelted. And that could have just completely changed the story and knocked everything out.
Because racism is a binary thing. Racism is extremely, it should be, right? It's where faith and religion has lots of shades of gray to it, right? And I think that would have been, like you said, that would have been interesting, at least because it wouldn't have been as visceral. But again, something like that wouldn't have the shock value. I really do think like showing two characters in blackface behind this couple who decide to marry so you can throw baseballs at them and literally stone them to death is so gross and outside. And again, if you go that route, you got to comment on it. And Booker, the character you're wielding, never, ever comments on it. Finally, Elizabeth does, but she's more concerned about the squalor and how people are being oppressed.
He doesn't really care.
No one ever mentions this, and it's not like a one-time thing. Unless maybe I'm wrong. I could be completely wrong.
There's like this. He makes a comment which is actually really good. Like Booker and Elizabeth have really good commentary, and she actually does provide a little bit of commentary later on, for your faceless character. So
it's just, I mean, the religion thing, I get it. Like I would have rather had him to run with that. Like Comstock is a very religious character, and you see him throughout the game, and you're the Antichrist, and I like that. I would have rather kept going down that road instead of because like first part of the game you're going after Comstock, and then at a different point you end up having to work for Daisy Fitzroy, who's one of the people that are being oppressed, the leader of it. And it's just like it gets stupid in aspects because you go through different portals and you go into a portal where this is also where you see an image where people who you killed in one world, you go in a different world and they're alive, their nose is bleeding because they were dead in the other world or something of that nature.
So stupid. So freaking stupid. Stupid.
I like the idea of multiple universes. I like the idea of different dimensions. Even in our reality, I believe that, I mean, not like I'm going to go and preach to people, but I do believe that could be a possibility. But if it is, I don't believe that anything we do in one affects the other. They're just all there because that's just how it works, if it's a thing. But the idea that because you got killed in one dimension should not affect the others, I just didn't agree with that.
And since we're here, I mean, this has nothing to do really with what the situation here is now, but I guess I'll just put it here because why not? Sure. One of I think the biggest problems with this game, and there are many, from a story perspective. And again, if someone can enlighten me on it, I honestly do want to be enlightened on it. I could be wrong, but the problem with this game is that there is infinite universes or infinite timelines, infinite dimensions, which implies that, for example, the idea is that if you get killed maybe prematurely, I'll say, I don't even know if that's the case. If you get murdered in another timeline, you yourself in another timeline, your current timeline, you start skitzing out, like you start glitching because maybe the designers didn't want to fix the glitch. Just kidding. But you start glitching out and you're having this weird push and pull, like something's not right with me. If that were the case, wouldn't everybody have that? Because if there's infinite possibilities, at some point in one of the infinite possibilities, the you because the you in that possibility is going to get killed or going to have an accident or fall down a ditch, right? So wouldn't everybody be skitzing out with bloody noses?
Yes. I'm
And that's
only
the
okay with it
Yeah,
when
go
you
ahead.
go into a world that you're not where you're not supposed to be. Like you go somewhere else and you have already died. Then I'm okay with you not being okay. But no, I don't agree. If you're in your own world, you should be fine.
But nobody else can go into the other worlds because only really the Lutesses and
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth can do that. So it's not like you're just people are darting back and forth between.
Yeah, so no one
worlds.
there shouldn't be a thing. It's only there because to make the ending go. That's the
Right.
only reason why it's there.
And that's my biggest problem with one of my story wise is the fact that this game is called Bioshock Infinite. When you introduce the word infinite, because it sounds cool on a game box, you are now opening yourself up to this idea. But wait a minute, like there's a universe of paradoxes here. Now, if this was Bioshock 40, let's say there's 40 timelines, you limit it. Okay, I could buy that a little more. Doesn't sound as cool as infinite. Could 40 be perfect? 40 is a very biblical word. You got religion. There's 40 days in the desert, and the ark was 40 days, and 40 years wandering in the desert. Blah 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 blah. Like 40 is all over the Bible. That'd be perfect. Perfect number. Anyway, we'll talk about that. I don't want to get into timeline stuff right now, but I think that kind of matters as we walk through this. Long story short, the racist stuff's not working for me personally, and I think it's just gross, and they don't do anything with it, and I think it's irresponsible of Ken Levine and his pack of cronies, whoever greenlit this thing.
2K, also 2K.
That's 2K, whatever.
Is
Whoever
2K even around
decided.
anymore?
No,
Okay, I didn't think
They're
so.
not? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure he's right. I'm going to look that up, but I think they went out of business.
So we leave this horrible place, and I like how after he murders the cop, in slow motion faction, as you said, Joe.
No, they're still
Yeah.
around.
Are people still there?
No, the cops
You
are
turn
around.
around, the cops are around, but none of the people are there. Like all
I mean,
the raffle
2K
people
still
are
around.
gone.
Sorry,
Oh, 2K.
2K still exists.
All right, 2K
Sorry.
is still a thing, but I like how you turn around and all the people are gone. Like you don't see anyone leave. Of course they're gonna run away, but no one is. They just disappear. And what's neat about it is for me, like I couldn't find the key to hit because you have to of course hit V, like you said, to use the weapon. I couldn't find it, so I was kind of fumbling for it. I look up and the cop is still standing there. Everyone's just waiting for me to find the key on my keyboard. So that's it. And you kind of go through and you go through some homes, and I don't know what the next story beat is that really matters.
You find a really racist voxophone.
Yep. I actually knew it was there, and I was on Twitch. And actually, this is actually an interesting, funny story. I had a few people on my stream.
I was there.
And were you there?
I was there.
Oh, right on, cool. So okay, so you remember what happened? I almost let the
You
audio
almost
go
picked it up.
because when you switch scenes, I'm still learning how to use all this stuff. I still don't know what I'm doing. So I switched to the other scene. Like, all right, I'm gonna go to another scene. We're not gonna watch this on stream. I'm not gonna listen to it. Hang out for a minute. We'll come back. And I'm sitting there. And all of a sudden, I look down and the desktop audio is still going or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, no. Because I didn't realize it didn't the audio doesn't change from scene to scene, which is weird. Maybe it does. I don't know how to do it. Oh,
Set up
man.
like that.
Yeah, it was pretty good. And then I made sure to not pick up that voxophone that has the very blatant racial epithet in it. Again, I don't know. I already stated my thesis on it. I think it's gross and disgusting, and it was completely uncalled for. And they did it not out of story reasons, but really just because it's controversial, man. It's controversial.
Yeah, that is the reason it's there.
I really
No
do think it's
question.
that. Yeah. Anyway, so we go through gross voxophone. You get to murder some people. You get learn possession. Yay! Murder more cops. Fireman shows up, throws fireballs at you. You beat him, right?
Yeah, I think this is also where you also find the very unnerving racist stuff. Other racist stuff. You go through the town a little bit, and you found like the secret society where they all wear like purple KKK outfits.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yes, I remember this.
Yeah, and I think this is also where you find out which isn't surprising because it's the 1912s, but it's like, oh yeah, we're using people of color and different origin because the Irish are also in this too.
Yes. Right.
And what is it? And it's like, oh yeah, we're exploiting them for money. And it's like just you as yourself is just like, well, yeah, it's racism. Of course you are.
Yeah.
And then you get the murder of crows.
It is great. Murder Crows is great.
Oh, I
and
shot because they don't pull out their guns right away when you go in there. They're not. And as soon as I saw the racist guys, I just started shooting them all. I didn't even care. I'm like, you're all
Good for you.
dying now.
I think when they see you, they start shooting anyway, so it's fine.
Oh yeah, they didn't get a chance to. By the time they saw me with bullets in their heads, so
I let them spout their rhetoric because I figured this is the last time you'd be able to just say such disgusting, vile stuff. So go ahead and enjoy your last words before I just murder you with fireballs and machine gun blasts.
well, there also was some part where I was walking around and some guy said Negro or something when the NPC said, and I just turned around and shot him. Nobody was shooting me. Nobody was after me. I'm just like you. I'm like fuck you, boom. And then all of a sudden they were trying to kill me. But it was just funny. He was talking to some servant, and so I just shot him. I'm like, how dare you?
I want to say this basically leads you to you walking up to Monument Island, right?
Yeah,
that's kind of a way. Also, you encounter the Lutesses. I think a couple of times here. I'll just comment. The Lutesses are great. I love them as a pairing and as the people who are constantly poking your brain as the player. Hey, none of this makes sense, right? Good. Yep, makes perfect sense to us. There's that one. Of course, nothing you do in this game really matters at the end of the day. Like no choices you make, but there's one. Oh, it might be the coin flip where they ask you to flip a coin and heads or tails and whatever you picked. I guess I don't think it matters. They walk around. He's got like a chalkboard around his neck, and it was heads every single time. So good, very funny.
The only real affection that effect you have is at one point they have either you get a necklace that somebody gives you. You can either be the birdcage necklace or the bird necklace, and that affects what necklace Elizabeth is wearing at one point when they give you a choice. That's about all I caught that actually had any real type of change.
We also go ahead. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no. There's another. Ironically, the baseball throw does matter. Oh, weirdly enough, because you find that couple hiding out somewhere, and they give you a hat.
Yes. But thanks for saving us from our stoning. Here's a lovely chapeau for you.
But there's also a really funny moment where you also realize people from Colombia are idiots. And it's like, I think you're walking around and you hear like a news recording. It's like, we found the false shepherd. He is a red-haired Irishman with a French mustache who is 5 foot even. And then like you walk into a building and this woman's like explaining what you look like, and you shoot the cop and she runs off, and it's like it looks nothing like you, and it's really weird.
I think the actual line is that he's either a 5 foot tall with red hair and a mustache, or he's a 7'2" giant. They're like super wrong. If you see this man, tell your local police officer. I like the radio guy a lot. I like towards the very end, by the way, there's a little scene when everything's just going to hell in Colombia. He's like, I hope someone comes back for me. I still here. Huh? How about some music? It's like, I love this idea of this guy cowering behind his desk, like still trying to fight the good fight and play classical music. Speaking of music, we can't continue on because part of Colombia, there's one of my favorite moments is when the dirigible shows up in Colombia and starts playing God Only Knows by the Beach Boys in this like oldie time like a barbershop quartet style. It is, I love that. That's part of that you were saying, Joe, where you're not quite sure what's going on. I know that song. Then you realize it's God Only Knows, which is a phenomenal, beautiful song. And they do that all throughout this game. I think that there's a Tainted Love.
Oh, is there?
It's all throughout this game. There's a YouTube group that does old time versions of modern songs.
Yeah.
They did this. They did those for this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Not Pennyroyal or something like that. Gosh,
it's something like that. They have a really good cover of Feel Good Inc. by Gorillaz.
They do the music for this, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they weren't known by anybody before this game, and then they got their YouTube channel, and that's kind of when they took off. But they do all the music for this, and they're all, again, oldie time covers of modern songs, and the conceit behind it's very good too. It doesn't quite make sense in the world where the guy who's releasing these recordings and doing this music has a tear that he can look in and find the modern music of the day. And he's like, I can't believe I'm making this music. It's just, it comes out and I hear it. And because that's in part of one of the ruined places you find when you're trying to find the Mama Comstock's parts, whatever you're trying to do.
Is this in the game? It's different.
Yeah.
Okay, I only heard the God Only Knows. I never heard any other.
Oh, it's all over the place. You'll hear it from tears. You'll hear it on the radio. It's all over the place. And it's really fun when you intersect with it.
There's a part later on where you walk by a tear and you hear it playing. Oh, I can't remember what it is, but I know Booker's like, I've never heard that song before, and Elizabeth makes a comment where it's like, I don't think that song even exists yet.
I think it might be Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
Yeah, it's Girls Want to Have Fun.
Yeah. Anyway, no, it's the music cues in this are very fun and good.
They did a cover of Fortunate Son from CCR. That fits perfectly for this.
Yeah, right.
I like that song in general, but I'm just like, this just fits this world perfectly. Those that know the song and hearing it, actually a good take on it too.
Yeah, it's really fun how they do that music. So we're not quite at Songbird yet because we have to go to Slate. I don't think we have Elizabeth at Slate. So
no,
right.
you get to the monument statue,
right.
and then then you go and meet her for the first time.
Monument statue is a very definition of this is fucking creepy.
Yeah.
And like I love going in there because like when you first get there, you kind of get a hint of what the gameplay is and what you've seen from the trailers. And it's them experimenting on what's essentially a girl for 19 years because they And they have to lock her in a dentist chair to make sure she doesn't mess with people. There's red tape. You find audio logs of the janitor who's like, man, as much as I hate to admit it, he says that he's like, man, these people are up to something weird. I ain't messing with it though. I'm just gonna do what I say and just do my job.
Just do my job. Just get it.
To which then you find him he gets like disintegrated at some point.
Yeah, he gets like disintegrated. Yeah.
There's a really interesting part where you walk in and you can kind of get a hint to what happens later in the game where you find like 3 objects and they change randomly. Like there's a bear, like it becomes new and used. There's a the book and a flag and stuff like that, and blood. I believe there's blood there too, like a bloody handkerchief, and you can turn the blood away. To which then you're introduced where they're watching behind mirrors. Elizabeth, I guess her last name would be Elizabeth Comstock.
Yeah.
It's very creepy.
Yeah. The Seed, which is an even creepier name.
Ugh. Gross. The Seed of the Prophet.
The Seed of the Prophet. How it's like the weird like villain like from olden times where it's like someone would call you the seed of your dad's name and you're just like, ugh.
The fruit of the loins or something. Godforsaken.
But interesting enough, which we find later on, I don't even think Elizabeth knows that she's supposed to be Comstock's daughter.
She does not.
No.
Yeah.
Nope.
Nobody.
That is the discovery later. Yeah. That's a discovery later.
Yeah, you find out Elizabeth does what any girl would do, like in a tower. Rapunzel from Disney's movie. She would read up and learn about stuff and decipher codes and try to figure out how to get out of there. And then Songbird shows up and you get launched out.
Yep. One of the many times you get thrown from a place and no harm at all done as you plummet.
And I think
100
for
feet.
A while after this, you're just trying to get an airship to get out. And I think that's around the time that you have the scene where when he lies to her, like, yeah, we're going to Paris. And she realizes that it's not the right. And then she leaves you for a bit and runs around and you're trying to chase after her. And I think that's when you get your airship stolen by Daisy Fitzroy, who's part of the people that are being oppressed.
Well,
the Vox.
Yeah, we've jumped pretty far though, because I think it's
I skipped something.
Because that's right. You escape Monument Island, and of course you escape with her. You escape with her.
On a beach?
You end up on a beach.
Yeah. You end up on a weird
beach island beach. Again, me just being persnickety. I feel like so that obviously this is an island beach they've made. Where's that water draining off to? Is there like one like place on the earth below that's constantly got water on its head? It's always raining. I didn't pursue it in my brain further. I mean, I don't.
Is the water draining, or is it just a big pool?
It's a big pool.
Is it? I thought I remember water falling off, but I said, shut up, brain, stop. This is too much now. Too much with you being persnickety.
It's a big pool. You go behind the scenes, you find a guy, and you find a voxophone where a guy's like, I'm so sick of like having to pump this water back and forth to make waves. It's a big pool.
Right. Okay, it's a giant wave pool. That's neat. Wave pools are fun.
And you see, which is honestly my favorite scene, and someone made an edit out of it where you see Elizabeth dancing to music. And there's a really sad edit that I've seen where she's dancing around, and someone put at the bottom where it's like, I wish I could just stay in this moment forever, because this is kind of where things end up royally going downhill for both of them.
Yeah, and this is a great moment too. I do like the beach. Again, you have more people at least. This feels lived in. There's a world. There's again, even though the people staring at you are just very creepy and weird because they all stare at you in the eyes, like they just like lock eyes with you, all of them. You get some cool little environmental stuff, and like some of the ladies are like, "Hey, look at this guy! You just fell out of the sky. You're probably dirty and gross and grimy, but you're looking for." Yeah, you did fall in the ocean, right? The baptismal waters of the ocean. So you kind of you find Elizabeth after exploring this area. Really fun. She wants to dance, and you basically tell her then, you want to go to Paris? knowing full well that screw Paris, we're going to New York. Great, let's go to Paris. Lead the way, person who just rescued me. Well, yeah, you just rescued her, so fine. There's a cool area here in the beach, like kind of like this arcadey type place where it's like Doofus and what was the name of the fake cartoon that they had?
Duke and Dimwit.
Duke and Dimwit. I was going through like I walk out to the thing. I got my stream. Like I'm gonna listen to all these Duke and Dimwit things because these look fun. I listen to 3, and then they repeat, and I'm like, damn it! You could have given me more Duke and Dimwit. I could have used a whole arcade full of Duke and Dimwit. It was really funny and clever. Again, one of those like cool little discoveries. I think this is the part where again you're kind of just walking around over to trying to get to the main like boardwalk area where the shops are and such, and the gondola comes down and all that. And there's a little spot. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh, there's Duke. Funny enough, I think it is a little bit teasing in the spoiler. I think it's funny that they chose that name for it because DeWitt is very similar to Dimwit. But there's more of kind of stuff going around. As one of the comments that I actually think is funny, Elizabeth walks in with you and she's like, "Oh, look, it's Duke and Dimwit." You know, and I'm assuming they gave her the arcade machines or showed her the clips or whatever whenever she was a kid. Right. And she makes a really funny comment, which is like, "Oh, Duke and Dimwit, you know, stuff and all that." And she goes, "You know, now that I think about it, these cartoons are really unnerving and a little messed up."
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that's kind of like the start of also Elizabeth starting to realize too, like maybe I have been sheltered my whole life.
Right. Because she got plopped out of Monument Island into a resort. Right. That looks great. Everything's great. And then that's your very good point. There is one part in this, and I think it's here, where you make you turn a corner you don't have to make. One of the few parts of this game where there's a path that you don't have to take, but you can, because it's encouraging exploration, you see, not just go forward through the corridors. You make the left-hand turn, and there's a table, you know what I guys would say, like books around it, and there's like a little teddy bear in one of the seats, and there's a little piece of cake and a coffee and a lit candle, and clearly somebody in either a child or a really creepy adult. No, it's not a teddy bear. It's a doll. It's like a child's doll. And either a child or a very creepy adult has set up a very nice date for his pet or date doll. And I sat there looking at it. And guys, I asked you guys didn't come across it. I sat there looking at it like, this is terrifying and cool. This is Bioshock right here. This is what's fun about these type of games, is discovering these weird little micro short stories, these little micro stories that have nothing to do with the game at all, but it gives color and light and life to the environment. I'm like, this is awesome. It's creepy and weird and unsettling and cool. I'm here for this. Nothing like that ever happens again in this game, as far as I know.
Yeah, it does.
Does it? I mean, maybe there's some other. I'm just mentally forgetting, but
you didn't like the Comstock House? I thought that was pretty creepy.
Comstock House sucks. Comstock House sucks so bad. It is beyond reproach bad. It is inexcusably bad.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. Anyway, so we get through, and I think, is this the point we have to get Shock Jockey to start the gondola so we can? Okay.
You can go to the Hall of Heroes and stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of getting tired of hearing stuff, I swear to God, when I was playing it the first time through, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little inebriated because it was Friday night. I had a long day at work. If I heard the word Tin Soldier one more time, I was gonna pop my own eardrums.
Tin Soldier. Ugh, yuck. Tin Soldier. That's funny. There was this is actually pretty neat. Again, you can go to the different shops and there's all sorts of different things. There's cute little songbirds.
Yeah, I want one of those.
They make them. They came with like some collector's edition. You can get a plush or a statue songbird. I want a plush one. Looks super cute. I love that design of songbird. It's so cool. Yeah, and there's a little more environmental stuff here you can do. You kind of wander around. There's no friction here. And then of course it turns into a murder arena. I forget why.
Oh, yeah. No, this is where you go get tickets for the gondola. And you can choose to shoot the guy. I always like getting stabbed in the hand because it adds a little bit to the aesthetic to the cutscenes and stuff. Because he keeps that. She wraps a scarf around her hand, and that stays on for the remainder of the game.
Does it for the whole remainder?
Yep, the whole game, all the way up to the ending.
I kept an eye on it. Like, is that going to stick around? And then I just forgot about it.
Yeah, but... What is it? Yeah, this is where they try trapping them, and Elizabeth totally falls for what obviously is like a scam. Like, there's a guy who's like, and I think it's really funny because you're kind of supposed to notice it, but when you play this game numerous times, you super notice it, and it's like there's two guys. It's like, oh, what a hot dog. A hot dog, you say? That'll be oh fucking 25 cents. Oh, okay. Do you have any sauerkraut? I don't know. And like there's people like talking and like about nothing. Like this is where it's supposed to be like really creepy and guys standing around doing nothing.
Right. It is a little bit of world building. It's fine. I remember that hot dog conversation. Like, what is going on? Like, why are you okay? Cool. Thanks. It was just wondering. It was just again a lot of us wandering around. You go to the Hall of Heroes. We'll just kind of go to there. I will state for the record that I do appreciate the effort to create this kind of like living area that you can explore. It doesn't happen a lot in this game, so I do appreciate the good old college try, as they say.
This is also the only moment where I actually believe like racist imagery is supposed to be, because we were kind of really mean to Asian people in the boxing and even during like World War I, and then we're also really mean to Native Americans back then too. So
yes.
And this could be me just being ignorant of this, and I apologize in advance. But was it like actual like propaganda, or was it more systemic? Because we were freaking horrendous to them, of course, even though it was still 40 years, 50 years after slavery. Because the propaganda of this read to me, "Hey player, just in case you forgot, still racist, still racist over here. We got the racist hats on, so." If you forgot, here's something really gross to look at that you're going to wince at, because we got to remind you, for no reason, we're racist. I don't know. And maybe that could have actually been a thing. I don't know. So
no, that was a thing. That was back then when we thought like, people, which I'm not saying now, so don't someone clip me for this. This is back then when people, Native Americans were savage and Asian people were sneaky, and that's why all the imagery's there, and it just looks horrible. Yeah. There's actually that's right. There's a really good character building here too, where I think it's after. Of course, you're introduced to Slate. You need to get the stuff from Slate. Slate, talks, which very grossly talks about how much you and him had fun. But Elizabeth makes a really good comment where she's like, "Booker, are you okay?" He's like, "No," and she's like, "You hated all this, didn't you?" He's like, "I was just doing my job,"
Yeah.
But
I did like that.
Yeah. But Slate talks about how you guys took Booker took 12 ways that they used to do back then that was atrocious. Scalping. He scalped 12 Native Americans.
Right.
Yeah, and he was carrying them around. Which one thing we kind of glazed over in the beginning, but it's because Booker is character action man. He is a member of the Pinkertons, which was the government men in black of get stuff done, no questions asked, and make sure no one finds out kind of thing.
Famously love to quell labor disputes. Prevent unionizing.
That comes up too, doesn't it? Like they're like,
yes.
I think they're when you go to Finkton, Booker explains it to Elizabeth. She's like, "How do you know that?" And he's like, "I've done some of it."
Booker's past is interesting, I guess, but it's again, I just feel it's poorly handled. But that's an interesting point. You're right, because all throughout that home where you're trying to get Slate, he says to him constantly, "Slate, we don't have to do this. We can just talk." Like clearly he knows Slate and Slate knows him, right? But Slate, because everyone in this game seems to be at least a moron at some point in their lives.
Oh yeah.
So sends his army. "Oh, they want to die," and the army's like, "Sure, let's die." And of course, our murder man is like, "Fine, I'll just murder all of you. That's okay, but we don't have to do this." I always felt that was really weird. Like, hey, Slate, let's talk first. Like, no one talks first. Everyone goes straight to the shooting. Especially when we get to Daisy Fitzroy, which is terrible. Everyone goes straight to the shooting. Like, we can't just sit and talk for a minute. And imagine how great this would have been if there were some nonviolent solutions to things.
You could have snuck around people instead of having to kill everyone.
Well, of course, in Burial at Sea, we retcon that. We do a lot of sneaking in Burial at Sea because everyone's sneaking. But we all go straight to the shooting, right? Because I guess they didn't have time in the schedule to build those things. How cool would that have been? Like, to reach Slate and maybe talk them down. Like, we can do that in modern games. Deus Ex does it all the time, and like Human Revolution, and it's a modern game. It's probably around the same time as this one. Why can't we have that anyway? But we get to Slate. he's already lost. I guess I don't know who shot him. Wasn't me. Oh, I guess we did, because we
you're fighting him. Yeah.
We tail him throughout. We give him the option we can either shoot him in the head or leave him be. What did you guys choose on that?
I saved him, or I didn't shoot him, but then when I found him a little bit later in the interrogation room, I shot him in the head then.
I did the same thing.
Same.
If you don't shoot him, okay, so if you don't shoot him, he ends up like lobotomized in the interrogation room. I thought for a good minute or two, like, ooh, should I shoot him? Like, it'd be more humane to do so. No, I didn't. I didn't. I figured I could. I assumed I could, but no, I decided not to. I just let him sit there like a vegetable. All right, he stinks anyway. Not a good person. No one's good in this game except Elizabeth. Elizabeth's good. Anyway, so we get to Slate. Why are we at Slate now? Is that to get the shock jockey?
Yeah, shock jockey.
Yes, get the shock jockey to power the gondola.
Yeah, follow the gondola, go up to the thing. Now we are at the point
because you get the gondola, which I think gets you the airship.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the airship is when he lies to her.
Right.
And that's when she starts to run away. And then you lose your airship and you're chasing after her. And that's how you end up. When you get back to your airship later, Daisy Fitzroy had taken it.
Does she hit him with a wrench?
Yes. She so what happened? Yeah. And ironically, that is the wrench from Bioshock.
Is it? Cool.
Yeah. Same wrench, same model.
Cool.
And then she decides while you're unconscious for God, Booker can sleep for forever. You're unconscious for like a good hour, and she just starts picking up people who need help, which, to be fair, is the right thing to do.
Yes, and it falls in line with her character. She's not murder lady, which also falls in line with the fact that she's not going to actually kill somebody, but she's not going to throw fireballs, even though she could in combat. You can say it falls in line. That's fine. Which is good, and you need that antithesis to Booker's murder type capabilities. Someone who's going to be softer and is going to try to solve problems and fix things and help instead of just being, a walking machine gun toting monster. So this is when you meet Daisy Fitzroy. Daisy basically says, "This is this timeline, Daisy." So she has no idea who you are. You want to help? Get us some guns. This is when you get to now hear Booker say over and over, "Gotta get the guns. Gotta get the guns."
It's annoying because this is where you go
this
to
is where you end up in a box. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
You go to meet this gun guy, but he's been captured, and then you have to go through a whole bunch of killing people and going through things to find him, and then you find out that he's dead. And this is when you start to really see the portals happen, where she starts really ripping into it. You go to a different world, and you go to a world where he isn't dead to go and rescue him.
So this is where I was going to get to too, which is kind of a weird thing of you kind of have to really think about it, and it's really weird. Kind of, and it's one of the things where if you kind of gloss over it, you kind of won't get it. So basically, Elizabeth's powers are complete bullshit, which is fine because they're supposed to be. Yeah. So what she's doing is she is opening a tear and then combining that world with the current world. There's supposed to be something that you can find that explains it. I don't know if it was cut from the game, but I do know it's in a trailer where she finds a dead horse.
Yeah, and that is not in the game.
Okay, she finds a dead horse and she's like, "Oh no, the horse!" And Booker's like, "Elizabeth, leave it. It's a horse. It's dead." And she's like, "It literally is the only horse in Colombia." And she's like, "No, we gotta help it, Booker." He's like, "Leave it. It's gone. It's done. Whatever." And she makes a tear around it and brings the horse back to life, but it's not the same horse. It's like a black and white horse, I think that she.
Yeah, it's like a white horse or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then it's one of the things where the Lucette twins kind of explain it, but they kind of explain it kind of poorly, which is dies, dead, will die. And it's just this weird accumulation of when Elizabeth fuses the worlds together, it's kind of like how what's going on previously and in this universe, since they're kind of keeping that knowledge, the person knows that they're dead and not. And it's kind of preluded to earlier which I'm surprised, I say the twist is good. It's not the exact twist everyone thinks of, which is what it is. When you first meet Comstock, Booker's nose bleeds because to an extent, he knows who he is.
Right.
But that's why you have all the weird stuff of like, Booker, all these people that we just killed are alive and they're like glitching out because you're technically you're jumping in the universe, but you're bringing the memories of that universe into this one.
Okay.
Okay, I didn't catch that. It's a very strange game.
Okay, I don't know if that was in the text, but that's interesting. Yeah. Okay. I mean, that kind of makes sense for me. It's just again the idea of that the infinite possibilities is that at some point, someplace, somewhere, because you exist in all these infinite possibilities. There's always a Booker. There's always a Comstock. There's always
a lighthouse.
There's always a lighthouse. There's always what's her face. So if there's all these different infinite possibilities, then there's an infinite probability that this is going to happen. Which again, why isn't this more common?
Well, no. Yeah, well, see, that's what it is. There's always possibilities, but they exist outside of their reach. What she's doing is she's combining one universe with your current universe, and that's why it's happening.
So the tear implies that you've created a bridge.
The tear
Almost?
the tear implies that you're combining two separate timelines into one.
Okay, see that doesn't see that's not what I got out of it. I got not that would make a little more sense. Now in this timeline, you've just screwed up this timeline. There's all these people now
Mhm.
who are confused. That you would just it would apply to everyone would be confused because now there's two of you in this timeline, including you, because Booker and Elizabeth should exist in this timeline. So my problem I don't remember that being in the text, and if it was, then I just missed it. What I remember Elizabeth saying was, "Oh, well, I don't even think she was clear on what it was. They don't know they're dead yet." I think was the line that she gave. They don't know
Yes.
that they're dead
Something
yet.
like that, yeah.
I thought it was they didn't know they died or something. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. Regardless, it is what it, and that's again, it's fine. It may be minor, but again, it just goes to show how I think this time travel, or sorry, this time paradox and multiple dimension story is pretty flawed, even though on the surface it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I do like all that stuff. I think there's just big holes in it, and I think it's just the fact that there's infinite timelines causes a big problem with paradox, right? And Elizabeth and Lutesses and all these people now have the ability to go forward and back in their own timeline, if I'm not mistaken. They can go forward and back and across and forward. Like they can really go anywhere. They have full range to get to any timeline. As when her powers unlock, she has the ability to see every timeline. If every timeline in infinite space in any point of said timeline. Like, what do you got? Like a giant Rolodex? Oh, there's one. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll gripe about that.
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with all this stuff because the Drakengard series kind of goes into it a lot.
Okay.
That the time works like a crown of thorns. There's always one main timeline and multiple thorn branches, kind of thing. So I kind of understand what's going on, and then also,
Okay.
but it's also poorly written as well. Because I completely agree with you. There's I feel like the whole reason why it's infinite, and I feel like there's like a unopened book of like, oh, well, the reason why we made Bioshock Infinite is so that if we ever want to go back to the Bioshock series, we just say it's a different universe.
Right.
And that's where I believe like we've been having every year or every couple years there's a weird like, oh, we're getting a new Bioshock, but it's gonna take place in lava or on the moon. And I feel like that's where that's coming from is, well, why can we have that? Oh, because Bioshock Infinite set it up.
Yeah. It's kind of like what they're doing with the multiverse in the MCU. It's like they're opening themselves up for all these different things with Loki. No, sorry if you haven't seen it. They kind of like open themselves up for that sort of thing. That's fine. I actually see the thing you reference sounds well written and well thought out because it's a book.
Yeah.
And
not
a first person shooter made with evidently with no money and no people. So I guess he couldn't take 15 years to make it. So anyway, we'll talk about that I think as we get to the lighthouses. But for now, we are with the Vox Populi. We are amongst horrible sadness and just feeling just empathy for them. Like I said before, Booker doesn't care. Get the guns. I can't look at this. Nothing to see here. Yeah.
Oh, you're
dog in a burning building.
Yeah, you're also introduced to the area bad guy, which is Fink, which is you get the whole thing where you go down the elevator and there's a big clock of when you're supposed to work and sleep and eat, and the sleep one looks like it's barely like 3 hours.
Yeah.
And you're introduced to like his assistant who when he finds the voxophones, he's always yelling at him, J. Jonah Jameson style, things like that. And get the really, what was it, the reason of stuff back then of like, whenever I don't pay you in money, I pay you in Fink coins. So when you come home, you can buy, stuff from Fink products, which are top of the line product.
Sure.
And yeah, and because I wouldn't want you poor people going out and getting robbed and then, there goes your money. No, so if they rob you and you have Fink coins, they're just gonna throw it back at you.
And I'll let you, because I feel like I've talked too much, Mike, so I'll let you chime in a second. But
That's okay.
I feel that kind of theming is actually as closest you get to commenting on the racism as to why they do it. Because also Comstock refers to, and I'm just not gonna say the words, but he refers to people of color and the Irish and these disenfranchised people. He likens them to like animals, and he likens them to people that need to be taken care of. They can't take care of themselves. We need to take care of them. Their life is much better if we just take care of it. And this establishes that theme. I do think it's terrifying, and it's a very good idea. Not Jesus. Okay, it's not a good idea. It's not a good idea. But as far as like a plot point, plot point in a game like this, everyone bidding for how fast they can do a job. Okay, I need you to run this thing up these ladders, or starting the bid at 15 minutes, 14 minutes. I can do it in 12. And this poor person, if they don't get it done in 7 minutes, they're gonna die. It's so scary, but it's a good idea for a plot point, for a setting. Obviously, horrible human beings. And Fink is such a terrible villain. He stinks. He's so one-noted. He's just evil McEvil man. Like, literally looks like an evil McEvil man from a early 1900s cartoon tying a woman to train tracks. The top hat and everything.
There's also, I think it's funny. I think you know what you're talking about. There's a Vox phone which talks about how Comstock's like, oh yeah, we need to help these people because they're too stupid to know what to do with their lives. And then you also have a really weird like one from Fink 2 where he's like, I don't care what Comstock says, but using people of color and immigration to make easy money is the best idea I've ever had. And it's like, oh my God, dude.
So just super villain, like so one-noted villainous. And all the one-noted, at least Andrew Ryan, who, let's be honest, he was one-noted too, but at least there was a morality behind it. Like there was a moral compass that he was following. Although it was shitty, it was still a moral compass. This is just not, this goes beyond that, like beyond politics and beyond industrialization and beyond American exceptionalism. This is like core shitty person beliefs. And I understand that was rife within our society and still is, of course. But man, I don't know. Not here. It ain't working. Mike, I'm gonna let Mike chime in because again, I feel like I've been blabbering.
That's okay. This is what happens.
I'm sorry. Oh no, I'm sorry.
No, this is your big episode we've been waiting on for years. So it's fine. No, when it came to like the stuff with Fink, there's a comment where he makes. I really hate this, and I've said this before in episodes, where he's like, if you're not moving, you need, like. Every minute that you're working for the company, you need to be doing for the company. Like, if you sit still, if you, not allowed, like just that type of mentality, and he's really taking advantage of his people. Like, I always hate that in things now because it's unnecessary.
I think the line is, "Do the bees take a vacation?" It's like, we're not bees, you monster.
Oh yeah, I forgot he does say that.
Yeah, where he's just like, don't stop working. Nothing else matters but working for me to make me more money. Who gives a shit about you? And
work is its own best reward.
And he's just such a horrible person. And I don't remember if you even get to kill him or not. If you even get to him, I can't remember.
No, doesn't Daisy get to him first?
Oh yeah, Daisy kills him, and then Daisy's gonna kill his son, and then it's Elizabeth shoots Daisy in the head.
No, she stabs her.
Oh, she stabs her. Okay, never mind.
So we get well real quick, it doesn't really matter anyways. We get through the whole like universe jumps and you save Su Chong. Also, if I hear Su Chong one more time, I'm gonna rip my eardrums out because they say his name so many times in that damn game.
Is it Su Chong?
Yeah,
no, Su Chong isn't from the regular Bioshock. I think it's like,
oh, is it not Su Chong? Is it? I don't know. I don't remember.
It's fine. Doesn't matter.
I think I do hear something about Su Chong in that game, but I'm probably thinking of 2 because we played 2 recently. But they do the gun thing, and they jump universes, and then you also have you go to Shanty Town, which is atrocious, and you do the bad thing of where you go behind the counter to grab the health upgrade, and then you end up having to shoot people, and you're a bad person for doing that. There's the weird thing of splitting open a tear to feed people because they're beating up which in itself is bad. Of like, what people really need? A vending machine. People don't have money, Fink. Yeah, but I'm gonna put it down there anyways, and they're beating it up. And then I don't remember what you do down in Shantytown, but something else happens where I think you need to get his tools or something, and you jump universes for a 3rd time. Booker's a hero for the Vox Populi. He ends up becoming the big poster boy.
And they want to kill you later on because you're not supposed to be there. So you're not good as a martyr if you're alive.
Yeah, that's the actual line, and it's really, really fucked up. Yeah, and so you end up jumping another universe 2 times, I think, and then you're the martyr. And actually, what's even funnier is you think Booker's a better person. You find a voxophone of Booker, and it's like he's like, I don't really care about helping the Vox. I'm just doing this just so I can, help Slate with something that he needs to do. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah,
But
right. Exactly. You're thinking, oh, he's a hero. Maybe here, this is a character growth. He can see who he is. Nope, still a dick. Nope, still shitty.
and then Daisy ends up making everyone kill you because they need a martyr and you can't exist. And which in itself is probably would have worked well as her just being a bad guy. But then you have the weird thing where you go to her and she's like, she kills Fink and she's like, oh, you can't have if you can't kill the tree without getting rid of the roots or something like that. So it's basically implying, and it's one of the things where I get it. You can't kill kids, but it's also one of the things of you also can't be like, well, I think Booker says it. You can't be a good person without doing stuff. But it's also like, no, Booker, people were being racist. These people kind of get the right to kind of be assholes just for a while.
Right.
Yeah, and it is a weird thing of like where I guess Booker does take a stop at killing kids too, but that's where we live to now.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm trying to think some of the stuff because you do a lot of running around. And I think this is when you start. This is I think once you get done with all Finkton and you do all the gunsmith shop, I think that's the part. Then you're trying to head to Comstock House, but to get there you have to go through all the stuff with the ghost.
Yeah, 1 second. I do want to go back to Daisy Fitzroy real quick. Yeah, very quickly. No, it won't be quickly. It's me. I just blabber on. Mike, you can always. We have Skype here. You can always just say "wrap it up, Bill" on Skype, and I will wrap it up fast. Like trust me, I'm well aware. I'm a blabber mouth. I know we're at 2.5 hours. Daisy Fitzroy. I understand what you're saying, Joe, and I appreciate the fact that you're saying that obviously he couldn't kill. You can't kill a kid in a game. I always say in fiction you can't kill a dog and you can't kill a kid. Like those are two things. You better have a damn good reason for both, like a really good reason, and there is no reason. I don't love how Daisy immediately, her solution, again, freaking out, right? You died. All of a sudden, there you are again, perfectly alive. Like, I totally get freak out moment. I don't know why her solution is to sick her entire army on you. That makes no sense, other than the game needs you to shoot things. We haven't had shooting yet in a while, so let's go shoot things. So now we're going to shoot abolitionists. That's what we're going to do now as the player. I get to shoot people who've been oppressed and trying to get their freedom back from these horrible people. Like Colombia needs to burn. So that's what we're going to do now in this game. Great. Thanks, game.
No, Mike says it. She basically flat out says like, you can't be alive. I need a martyr. So that's why she sticks everyone on you.
Okay. All right. That's fair. Yeah. That's fair. Okay. That's fair. That might be a plot point that I missed.
But it's still stupid.
It's stupid though. It is stupid.
Yeah. I don't see why you had to make Daisy Fitzroy a bad person. Just make her the leader of the rebellion. It's tough, strong, determined. She's the leader of the rebellion. Cool. Why does she have to be a bad person? Why does she have to threaten the life of a child? Why does she have to stick all her murder armies at you? Again, that's explained in the game, fine. The only reason you're doing this is this for this ridiculous, senseless, stupid 15-year-old boy writing 9 Inch Nails slogans on the back of his notebook in math class. The bad guys would be just, the good guys would be just as bad if they had the same experience. Two sides of every coin. No. That's not how it works. Like, you don't get to say that. You don't, game. You don't get to say that. No, I actually yelled at the screen. No, bad game, bad.
And you could have easily switched it around and just have it to where, like, literally all you had to do was, like, Daisy ends up dying from probably Fink, and then Fink frames you for her murder, and then Elizabeth kills Fink, and that's her big moment of, like, killing someone for the first time. And then the whole reason why the army's after you for the rest of the game is like, no, please listen to me. I didn't kill Daisy. Fink did. And it's like, no, we don't believe you. And then they're just after you. Yeah.
Fine. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah. But I also don't believe in the whole, oh, you're killing people. You're just as bad as the bad guys. Rebellions. Like, no, that's what war is, dude. Like, that's what happens.
And even if you have a strong conviction, like, no, violence is never the answer, right? Strong conviction. Sometimes you have to put yourself in the shoes of the people who are involved. There's no other option for these people. Either be oppressed or kill people. Like, that's it. That's it. And when you're wandering through Colombia, like, as people are dying, the Colombian people are trying to get on the ships, right, and leave. Are you supposed to feel sympathy for them? I don't. Murder them all.
Oh yeah, that's really
They're all baseball throwing assholes. Like they all deserve to go. Like I'm sorry. I don't care if you were born in this society. There are certain things that are inherently wrong in the human heart. One of those is throwing baseballs at people and murder them.
I can't believe you let the Joker live, says Jason Todd to Batman.
That's the last I'll say on it. I'm sorry, Mike. I just yeah.
All right,
sorry,
so
Mike.
we need to get moving on this one.
I know.
Someone has to edit this later. So, one of the things I do want to mention, though, as the game progresses, you have a scene where Elizabeth runs away from you and gets captured by Comstock. I think it was.
Yeah, but what is it? We get to the whole, which is also the other explanation for it too. You have to go into Comstock house to get to where you're going to. I get to get his airship now because the whole every plot point is you have to go get an airship. And then you go try to steal Lady Comstock's hand.
Oh yeah, that's what I forgot. I was gonna.
Oh, and then we kind of get over it. We skipped a little bit over it too, which I actually read because I went to the Wikipedia to understand more of the story, which is also why I now understand the story more. Daisy Fitzroy was framed for Lady Comstock's murder. She was actually her not butler, but a waitress or whatever. Daisy was Lady Comstock's servant, and they framed her for the murder.
Right.
Because Comstock killed her because he needed her to be dead because she was going to say how Elizabeth wasn't her child.
Right.
Yeah, and then you end up, which apparently was a cut enemy, and they still put it in the game, but they couldn't figure out how to do the AI. Lady Comstock gets turned to a siren, which is where Elizabeth's powers get explained a little bit more, where her tears aren't only other universes, it's kind of her willing stuff into existing as well, stuff that she wants, because she brings Comstock wants Lady Comstock alive, but then Elizabeth also thinks of her of being an awful person, so she makes this weird amalgamation of Lady Comstock and a ghost and an evil person.
Yeah, it's like the combination of her emotions and Lady Comstock's emotions. And you know what the best way to write yourself out of plot holes? Just give one of your main characters ability to do everything. Just remove all the rules from the story. That's the easiest way to do that.
Yeah.
I did not like the ghost part. Hunting down the parts for the ghost. I had a really hard time finding the rips because I didn't know about hitting that button to show me an arrow, and I just got lost for a while.
You can get lost in this pretty easy. Yeah, you really can. Even with the arrow, it's a little twisty turny. It was the first time in the game that you actually have real agency of which direction you walk in. And I will say that very quickly, without going into detail, Lady Comstock is one of the top 10 worst bosses in video game history. Worst freaking boss. You get to fight her 3 times because once is not enough. She sends constant stream of enemies to harm you. She has a very relatively short window to attack. She's tanky as fuck. She takes 1,000 shots. It's boring and it's annoying and it's repetitive and it's terrible.
You know what sucks? You know what really saves that boss fight? Or not saves that boss fight, because that is a bad boss fight. I agree with you. But you know what really helps out in that boss fight? The overkill when you kill an enemy. Because whenever she's summoning enemies, I just kill one, and then all the other ones that she's summoning all get hurt, and they all just die instantly.
Because they all kind of swarm around her at the beginning. Oh, that would have been great. Oh, that would have been beautiful. Man, I did not have that, so I ended up just shooting all of them because they kept murdering me.
Yeah.
So anyway, that sucks when we go into stupid Comstock house. Oh yeah, but you're right.
There's a little bit of story here too that I'll get into, because Comstock house isn't really that important anyways. You end up getting to the Lutesses, where they end up explaining how she brought her brother in from another universe, and then you get the whole thing of, Lady Comstock of you got knocked up by my husband because is a really weird voxophone you can find where it's like, I do what a man does, Lady Miss Lucette. I can't get her pregnant, and it's like, that's weird. And then you reveal that he is sterile, which I will save for the big finale of this game because it's actually really interesting. Yes. He's sterile and he can't have kids, so that's where they get the trying to figure out where. I don't even think they do say that. They're like, wait, if Elizabeth isn't his kid, then where'd he come from? Where'd she come from? It's like, well, we'll worry about that later.
Right.
And you have the whole forgiving to Lady Comstock, and a decent moment, I think, for Elizabeth's character too, because it kind of does explain her powers a little bit well. And then she just fucking Ghostbusters herself through the entrance of Comstock House.
Yep. Yep. pretty good. Breaks open the gate, and away she goes.
Is it Comstock House, or where is it where you see where Elizabeth is just taken from you and start getting tortured?
Yeah, that's when you're walking up there.
We're getting there now, yeah.
Is a good it's a good fucked up scene where you lose her and then you see her being tortured somewhere. But I think it's before you find her being tortured, you end up going through a sneaking part that was really annoying. I didn't sneak at and ran out of ammo, and I was like, I don't like this.
It's one of the worst action scenes in this game.
It's bad. It's
the worst.
It's really bad. And then after that, you have a scene where you find old Elizabeth from the future, who ends up showing you what's going to happen if she's not saved, where she's sending these airships to destroy New York. I did like that.
Mike, if you need help editing this, please let me know. I have editing software. Like, I'll just cut the file in half and send it to me. I'll help you.
Oh, it's all right.
I need to go back to Comstock House.
It's fine.
And talk about how stupid those hornhead creatures are. So they introduce a mechanic where it's the idea to be a sneaking mechanic, right? You have all these little kids with George Washington masks on, of course. And the idea is that this guy who's called the Boys of Silence, I think that's the name of the character, the Boy of Silence. And they have these horns in their head. And the idea is that they see you, like it's basically a turret section, essentially. If the turret sees you, or the spotlight sees you, it screams and awakens all of these creatures. These creatures are pretty tough to kill. They take a lot of shots, and they don't drop ammo. Not one of them drops anything. There's no ammo drops. Nothing. So now in a game where you've had nothing but plenty in ammo, you're now scarce. You have ammo's very scarce now. You can't kill these things with it. You can use your plasmids, but there's no places for salts. Once in a while, you'll find like a weapon somewhere. This is the game trying to give you to force you to play with your tools. Doesn't work. The idea is that if you sneak up on the Boy of Silence, you should be able to take him out and not wake up the people. Did anybody do this successfully?
Wait, you can do that?
Evidently, because I did it when I played it on PlayStation 3 freaking 9 years ago. I could not do it this time around. I had to fight every single George Washington face. It sucks so fucking bad.
I just shot him and started the fight.
The idea, because what's the point of sneaking around them what's the point of sneaking around them? I'm pretty confident. I'm pretty sure, maybe I'm wrong, because I got behind him. I'm waiting for hit E to stab in the head. Like you would in the game like that. That way the guy dies and everyone maybe disappears. I'm pretty confident you could do that. When I played it 9 years ago, I could not figure it out, and I had to fight every single one of those idiots. And it's just, oh my God, what a slog. What a horrible, horrible slog. Terrible.
It's really bad. And it's annoying not having Elizabeth with you, too.
What's that?
It's annoying when you don't have her with you.
It's hard, right? Because you're so used to her just feeding you stuff, right? And now you're on your own. I don't mind that sense of privation. That's okay. But just that mechanic is bad. And evidently, that's another character that was supposed to be way cool than ended up being. And I can't remember the story. I tried to look for it, I couldn't find it. But evidently that was supposed to be something else, but they had to pare it down because they couldn't do it. And they basically just pared it down to a lighthouse turret. And
yeah, I found it. There were supposed to be boys who were born deaf, and they basically wanted to give them some service around in Colombia. But it's kind of funny because, like, I guess they cut it out because it's like Colombia helping handicapped people.
Right.
Yeah, but they were supposed to actually be around. It was which I'm kind of glad they cut. There were supposed to be more of them in Colombia, and if they caught you, they would sound the alarm, and people would be attracted to you.
Right.
I'm glad that was cut.
Yeah, I'm glad that's cut too. But this section is just to plop them into this section to make it like stealthy, like you were saying, where the game is not designed for it. The mechanics are not designed for it, and I could sworn I could have turned them off. I did not. So maybe the object is that just go around, I guess.
I did sneak around one of them once.
Okay. And then
you can like crouch and sneak around.
So maybe that was my mistake, but oofa, bad.
You shoot them in the head, they alert everybody immediately.
Yeah, you can't kill them, right? So you go through and you find what were you saying, Mike? You go through and I think that's the point where you get that really stunning, scary scene. It's a great scene. It really is a great scene.
You see her being tortured too, and you hear her screaming, and he's like, and at one point, it's like, I just got when he meets the older Elizabeth, he's like, I was only gone half an hour, and she's like, you were gone years.
Yeah. He's gone like 50 years.
Yeah, he never got back to her because time is different.
Here's my question then, and this is honestly just a question. Of course, it's a question. I'm going to say it. How did he get into the other timeline? Because when you go into that Comstock house, you cross this giant bridge, right? It's all foggy, right? And you cross into this house, and that's when you're going through and you're hearing the tears from the dimension you were just in. Captured. You got the scientist is going to work on her that we don't know who it is. And then you get to that cavern where it's all icy, right? And that's where old Lady Comstock or old Elizabeth is there. How did we get into that alternate dimension?
She just grabs you. She's
Yeah.
standing up there. She sees you and she pulls you up and
No,
shows you.
I'm saying, but you were in that dimension before. Like that's the dimension you've been traversing to get to that point. Because you hear, I would say,
I
old
think just
dimension
the rips
Elizabeth.
of maybe her being tortured.
How'd you get there? I didn't pass through a tear. Can I
got
pass through tears? I can't open tears. I'm not Elizabeth.
You wouldn't really know. I think you go through a little bit of fog, so that's probably when you end up doing the
Fog.
jump. Yeah.
But I went through time fog. Evidently, that's the only thing I could think of was I guess I went through the time fog.
Well, I think old Elizabeth tells you like she grabbed you, she pulled you through to the future because I guess whenever I'm assuming what it is whenever in the past Booker goes through Comstock House, if it's too new, he dies in any sequence of him going through that house. So the only way for him to get through it is by pulling him into the future and then putting him at the top.
Oh yeah, because she talks about you made like 30 attempts or 40 attempts at this and you always die.
Did she
Yeah.
say that? Okay.
Yeah, there's a word. There's something about that.
So she's pulling you, I guess, from different dimensions, like
Yeah, to
like
help you
slices of
survive.
bread from a bread basket. Like, oh, this one didn't work. Or picking lemons from the from the supermarket. They're all grody.
Well,
Wow, man, these lemons.
And
are
then
grody.
it's just cool scene to see what she can become, and then she gives him the note or
It's
gives the
cool.
note to you to give to Elizabeth.
Yes.
That will then teach. She'll understand, which she doesn't at first, of course, but this is what helps her find out about Songbird later on.
I also think it's really, really like messed up and really cool too, where she's like what really made her into that person wasn't torture or like apparently she also gets lobotomized too, probably. None of that actually had any effect on her. What really turned her into what she was is just waiting for him to show up.
Yeah, it's powerful. It's a powerful moment. I'm not gonna dunk on it too much. I was just curious how it happened. That's what my brain went. Yeah, no, it is a powerful moment. It's 1984 New York just getting destroyed by these blimps, and she has this look on her face that's just resignment, like you didn't show up, and it's sad. It's very sad and very powerful. I will definitely admit it's a cool scene.
I still like all the time rip stuff, and then it's shortly after this you rescue her, and then you finally get to Comstock, who's just sitting there next to a basin of water, wanting to baptize you for some reason.
Okay, no. So, fun fact: they had to add this to this game because Adam Levine had this whole setup where Comstock was just supposed to be like an insane man by the end of the game. One of the people that was working on the game was a heavily devout Christian, and she's like, I'm gonna leave and like probably have some HR stuff to do if you don't at least change it to where he has some kind of redemption. And they worked that in there for her because the whole point of the game is he is a crazed religious man who uses Christianity to, make people into zealots.
That's real if you ask me, but hey.
Yeah, that's my answer to that too would be if you're a Christian. I identify as a Christian as well. And I find no problem with shoving that guy's face into the water. It's perfectly good with me. He totally deserves it. So, I mean, that's just, yeah. I mean, that's just, I respect her for her convictions, but I would argue like, don't you want that guy to go? Because he's got to.
Yeah, he's a terrible person.
Gotta go. He doesn't need a redemptive arc. He hasn't earned it. And any redemptive arc would have been unearned and very strange. So as much as I'm not, again, you don't have any choice. You just shove him in the face, and it's like, fine, that's perfectly acceptable. But not before he kind of teases the big hint that, you are him are you. I think that's basically where that articulates.
Yeah. In different. This is kind of what I talk about in different worlds, because then it kind of talks about the baptism where Booker was supposed to go to this baptism, and they were going to baptize him in a river after what he went through, a wounded knee, and he decided not to do it. And the idea is that in a different world, he did do it, and then he became a religious zealot. That was the idea.
Yeah, religion can be an extremely powerful weapon.
Well, it's also
Mhm.
There's a really good what is it called, Denzel Washington movie about that where he's carrying around a Bible and this dude who like
Book of Eli.
Book of Eli, yeah,
That's a good movie.
That's a great movie, and it basically proves how like this guy's like I need that copy of the Bible, and his henchmen are like why? He's like because religion makes things so much easier to manipulate people.
Yep. Yeah, it's scary.
True.
And again, this is coming from somebody who, yeah, I identify as a Christian, and I will still wholeheartedly admit that it's a very easy way to manipulate and to get what you want. It's scary.
Well,
it's really scary.
What happened a few years ago in our country, about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
That was religion involved a lot for a guy that was not religious at all. But they jumped on board with him.
Sure did. Sure did.
So, yeah, it's not that. It happens.
Anyway.
I did when I first played this game, I really liked the idea that you are Booker and you are Comstock are the same person. I mean, at first I was like, okay, that is cool. Now I'm just like,
It's fine. It's okay. I mean, it fits with it's fine.
It's better than some of the stuff. And this is also where you find out more about how the connection of him, where the whole idea of bring the girl, wipe away your debt. At some point, he was broke and not doing well, and he was going to sell his daughter to some guy, which is Comstock, because Comstock needed a version of the daughter of his daughter since he was sterile in this universe. And also kind of because throughout the game you find out Elizabeth is missing part of her finger, but you never know why. And it shows you that what happens is that when they pulled her through this portal, part of her pinky got cut off, and that's why she ended up getting this ability to open up portals when they were stealing her.
I never really understood why Comstock is older. And I had to actually go up and look at it. I looked up the Wikipedia, and I guess there's some stuff you can miss throughout the game or something. I really don't know. But apparently him slamming his face into tears to see the future gave him cancer, made him look older, and also made him sterile.
Yes, and made him indistinguishable to the player as actually you, because you have the copy of the box next to you and you can totally compare. You're right. This is exactly right. He with all the experiments they were doing, and it made him sterile, and he cannot. Yeah, he ages a lot faster. It accelerated his aging and did that stuff. So yeah, they kind of say it. Yeah.
Yeah, but that also should also be super obvious whenever you first meet Comstock and he's like, "Hello, Booker. Why are you running around killing people?" And you get a nosebleed, and you're like, "That's weird." Like,
yep.
Yeah, but that's not what actually ends up being my favorite twist. My favorite twist that ends up being is whenever you destroy the statue and the whole like infinite possibility things and all that. That's actually where I think the game completely goes off its rocker, but I think in a good way. Like, I actually like all that stuff.
Yeah, we'll talk about it soonish. I'm sure it's been 3 hours, but I mean, it's we'll talk about it. It's extremely impressive and effective, but I think it's very thin. And it's basically what I've been saying all along is this whole idea of infinite timelines. We'll talk about it. But anyway, I do think this is good when they shove his face into a baptismal font and drown him. That's excellent. Very good.
It is. He deserves it.
Just be aware too, if you were listening to this and concerned about the racist stuff, it's gone. All gone. No one talks about it anymore. It's been gone. Don't worry about it. We all forget about it. It's no big deal. It wasn't a major plot point for 2/3 of this game. That's fine. We're done.
A third.
Now we're on other stuff. Now we're on world changing and
yeah.
I don't know.
Which is fun. We're on fun timeline. And
I know when I was younger, I really liked the idea that Elizabeth was your daughter and in different worlds, and you tricked yourself to say, wipe away the debt, get the girl to justify what you're doing or something like that because he forgot and he's confused. Like, I liked all that more when I was younger than I do now, but it's still fine.
It's fine.
And then you have a big gauntlet section on the airship where you just fight tons and tons of guys, which is. I don't like it, but I mean, I'm okay with Bioshock games as finding a bunch of enemies as your ending. I'm okay with that.
I am too. Yeah, I am too. I prefer that to a bad boss. If only at this point I was so fatigued with the combat, even though I was on Twitch and having fun with people. I was just very fatigued. And like, I just want this to be over. It's also oh dang, I had something in my head that went away. That's neat in the game. Never mind then. We'll move on.
No, I know what it is. It's a Songbird. You get Songbird now.
Well, Songbird is at the end. So we'll just go through the whole thing. You get on the airship and you fight more people and you get to the top. Then the Vox, of course, attack the airship because they're still fighting against Columbia. This is where you get to, like you said, pilot a Songbird. Before this, you get that 0451 thing. That stinks. You're a liar. It's not an 0451, you evil person. And then we get to this part where you control Songbird. I like this fine. This is perfectly fine. I wish you had a little more agency in it. I wish it just wasn't like hold E to activate Songbird. The visuals of him just tearing into a blimp is awesome. Like, so cool. I will admit that. Basically it becomes a tower defense, like we're basically defending the 4 glowy orbs on the spaceship, on the airship from the Patriots destroying it. How many times do you guys have to run through this? Did anyone like die or feel like they had to kind of go through it again?
I had to run through it once. I kind of thought I was gonna have to again because there's the one thing I didn't like about having to control Songbird, and it's really weird because there's a good instance of it being used and the bad one, which is funny because Bioshock 2 has it to where you can also control, your daughter, which was in essence a plasmid,
Yeah.
which was done much better because Songbird has this weird timer, and depending on what he attacks, depends on how long the timer takes.
Yeah.
So you can have him slam into the ground or attack there's the airship and then the blimps or the gondolas or whatever the hell they're called. And I didn't really have any issues. The only real issues I had is where it's like I'm like, oh, the health's going down. Where are they?
Yeah, it was more of you're right. It kind of felt like it felt a little artificial. Like the game was trying to give me artificial control of Songbird when I really didn't have to. It was very scripted. Like you said,
Yeah.
exactly. The cooldown was dependent on how long it took him to do the thing, but it was effective. It was effective because he's such a cool character, and watching him rip things into shreds is extraordinarily cool and fun. But again, this boss fight is very tedious. You fight like 10 or 12 Patriots that were never fun to begin with. Luckily, it was way too much. And at the time, I was confused by the Patriots, but that you guys made a good point about why the Vox would have some of their own. So makes sense. Yeah.
And then after this is kind of the end of the game where you end up, which I like this scene, even though it doesn't.
One second. I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry to cut you off, Mike. There's one last thing.
Sure.
When you're in Comstock House and I think you've removed all the different plugs from her, and she brings in a tornado because she's now unsiphoned to like sweep everybody away, which is again so cool and reminds me how cool this would have been if you could do things like that in action in game. Did anyone lose their mind when you got jump scared by the giant boy of silence when you turn around?
I did. I know I did. I know there's also a point where he jump scares you again, but I think I'm probably thinking of Burial at Sea.
You might be. I don't remember a Burial at Sea jump scare, but there is one here where you turn around from that console. Very effective. I kind of pooped myself a little bit there, but it was very effective. Yeah.
I have never played Burial at Sea.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait for you to play it because a lot of the reason a lot of people only like Bioshock Infinite is because of Burial at Sea. And Burial at Sea, retcons a lot of stuff and makes the game story just a little bit better.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember the story of it, but I do remember it fixes a lot of the things that people like me complain about.
But
anyway, ending. Sorry, go ahead, Mike. You were talking about the ending.
What I want to talk about is like you end up with Songbird, and they got to get rid of Songbird because after you're done with the song, you play the song, and it's attacking everything for you. She opens a portal and brings it underwater to Rapture, and you just watch Songbird die, and she's like, "I'm so sorry," and it was a powerful scene.
Yeah.
And you're in Rapture. I don't know why you're in Rapture, but okay. I mean, that didn't bother me. I'm like, this is cool. And you're in Rapture before the fall of Rapture. So that was also cool to see. And then it's a small scene, but it isn't, you see it and then you get into a bathysphere and then you go up to the surface and the bathysphere you end up at a lighthouse. And this is when things start getting really confusing.
Yeah.
Where you end up seeing all these different lighthouses, and she talks about how there's infinite universes, infinite again, and that in some of them you become Comstock, some of them you don't, but there's always a lighthouse and there's always you.
Well, the idea is supposed to be, like I said, I feel like this would have been better if they had made maybe this was Bioshock Infinite was a sequel to a game where you also have tears. But I feel like the whole reason why a lot of this is happening is they're basically setting up like we can still keep doing Bioshock games because there's always a man, there's always a lighthouse, and there's always Big Daddies, there's always a Songbird, things like that. Like you can still have a Bioshock game. It just needs to have these core elements. Except for some of the stuff they do in this game, because a lot of the stuff in this game is not Bioshock.
No.
Yeah, and that's why I've stated at the beginning this is a terrible Bioshock game. It's going to Rapture is such a thing for the fans. That's such a fan thing. Like, hey, everybody, you're back in Rapture. I got giggly. Like, I wish I was here for the last 20 hours. Not where I was, but okay. Songbird dying is very sad. Or like his eye cracks and he dies, and it's extremely sad and powerful. It is a powerful moment. Again, like I've stated before, the problem with this is it's just this idea of infinite universes. And you're right, Joe. They wobbly wanted to. I can't remember if it was an article or a podcast or something, but the author/host said, wouldn't it be great if Bioshock were just a series of disconnected anthologies about different types of moralities, different dictators style characters, and you having to take them on in different areas. It doesn't even have to be Rapture, right? But make it like an anthology where doesn't have to connect. We don't need everything to connect to Rapture. If you want to live it, and actually Ken Levine And by the way, Joe, earlier you called him Adam Levine.
Yeah.
That's the lead singer of Maroon 5, sir.
Yeah, I think we mentioned that before too.
I've been doing that for months now. I've been doing the exact same thing. Like, oh, dang, Ken Levine. That's fine. I'm just teasing. I could see this, but having all of these multiple timelines, these infinite timelines, makes it very confusing because, like you said, Mike, there's always a Booker, there's always a Elizabeth, there's always a Comstock. And if in these infinite timelines, you're one or the other, right? You either take the baptism after Wounded Knee or you don't. And your timeline always states that you will do one of two things. Like, what if you take the baptism and then you meet a preacher guy 10 days later who actually does, convert you to Christianity or helps you, become a better person? Like, it implies that there's only two paths in this world of infinite paths.
Yeah.
And if you posit that, okay, there's infinite paths, or I have one of two options, which again goes against that idea of infinite paths. How am I ever going to stop Comstock? Because if there's an infinite amount of paths, will an infinite amount of Elizabeths go after an infinite amount of paths, and all of them are going to succeed at the same time? Like, at the very end, when you get dunked in the water, there's like about 20 of them. Like, they're not all going to go there. And are all those Elizabeths, do they all have the ability to do these tears?
Because
Have they all been freed by the siphon? You see what's happening here? It's the house of cards is falling. The cool lighthouses are very cool.
Well, that's why the game ends.
Important
Before you had a
stuff.
chance to think about it.
But when you actually think about it, for me at least, and again, I could be wrong, and I don't want to steal people's joy who love this ending because it is extremely powerful and very well done. This is a very well crafted ending. I love the fact that she can do this stuff because she lost her pinky. That is really cool. She exists in two worlds. That's cool. I'm here for that. Very good. Not all the Elizabeths did that. They all don't have thimble thumbs. So that's where my mind is going with this, because I want to really understand this, because it is on its surface very cool, but man alive, under my microscope, under my magnifying glass, I'm just not seeing it. I'm just not.
Now it's my turn to hop into the ring for this. I actually completely love this. It makes sense because basically what it is the way I take it is Booker technically only has two paths. He either goes to the baptism and becomes Comstock, or he doesn't. So what Elizabeth is doing here, with to an extent, because you see other Elizabeths, and the way I see it is there's always these Elizabeths are all ones technically who did figure out how to use their siphon powers. Even funnier enough, one of the Elizabeths that grabs you is from the beta, which means to an extent the beta exists in canon.
That's funny.
And there is a Elizabeth that's dressed in all white, which I'm going to assume off the top of my head is the perfect Elizabeth that Comstock has. So basically what the whole point of killing Booker at the baptism is cutting off one of his two main choices that he has. That is to say, for an example, all right, Joe, you're going to walk into this restaurant. You're either going to buy the hot dog or buy the hamburger. If you buy the hamburger, you will become a Nazi super leader. So how do you end up keeping that from happening? Simple. You kill Booker at his baptism, or you put poison in that hamburger. So you completely cut off that branch to where any instance that which Booker goes to the baptism to become Comstock, he drowns during the baptism.
See, but there's a couple of things I would disagree on. I would say that if there's only two options for Booker, that implies predestination. That implies that you do not have full agency over your life. He could have not gone to the Wounded Knee. Booker in timeline 85,278, he could have become a physicist, or he might have been a school teacher, right? That implies that Booker, even though he exists in all the timelines, what it's saying is that your life is predestined up to a certain point in which you have choices, which also implies that you do not have full agency over your life. But that's not what this game is positing. It's saying that if there's only two options, and who's to say that killing Booker in this timeline, because right, we have to be in a timeline, right? Mm-hmm. You made a great point about how maybe it's one main timeline and lots of branches, kind of like what they're doing in the multiverse in the MCU. Yeah. Okay, gotcha. Okay, I can dig that. If you kill somebody in the main centrist timeline, it removes that option for everybody else. That's cool. That's not what this game is saying. This game, at this timeline, it's explicitly said, this is one of an infinite amount of timelines. It doesn't say this is the central timeline from which all timelines grow. This is just one of infinite. So in that with that idea is if I kill Booker in this timeline before he gets to the baptism and has the ability to make the choice, well, what? I can't kill him. I'd have to do it in all of them. I have to do that in all the timelines where he has a choice, in an infinite amount of places with an infinite amount of Elizabeths. Mm-hmm. That's where I feel like it falls short. I think in your estimation, that makes a lot more sense. I can get on board with that. I could super get on board with that. Yeah, there's a master timeline, and if you can just find the seed of the tree, right, and cut off that seed, then that I can get into, and we don't have to worry about grandfather paradox or anything like that. Like that's another thing that can leach into these type of stories. If you go back to kill your grandfather, then you cease to exist. How can that possibly happen? Right? Because that really doesn't pertain to this. You're kind of going back and taking care of another person. But since Comstock is you, would you cease to exist down the line if you kill Comstock as you? But that's I don't even get into that paradox. That's my problem. It's one of infinite. So that means you have to do this infinite amount of times. And since infinite is infinite, you're never going to do it because there's always a Comstock and there's always a Booker and there's always that. And it also implies that the people in that timeline can also choose to not have you. So maybe Booker's parents in a bunch of different timelines never have Booker, right? You can choose to not have kids, right? You can make that choice. See where I'm saying? Like this is where for me it just falls apart. Although as a game ending, it's extremely effective and well done. It's a very well done. You can't look at those skylines and those towers and be like, wow, that's really cool. Okay. But then my brain goes, wait a minute. Hang on, game. And final thing. When this playthrough, imagine happening to you the first time. This playthrough, you get to the thing, you go through the final door to get to the baptism, right? The final baptism where they drown you. I walk in, the game goes to black. I get a bunch of achievements and it goes to credits. My game bugged out and never showed me the last 30 seconds of this game.
What the hell?
So if I had never played this game before, I would have thought you walk through a door and that's the end of Bioshock. I would have never seen the last minute. I did not get the last scene, and it's on stream. And of course, my stupid computer did not send the audio for the VODs for like the last half of my game. I could not figure out why. So I have this recorded, but there's no audio.
It's weird.
The Streamlabs OBS, I don't know, is possessed on my machine. It won't send audio for VODs. So what it did was I'm going, and my brother-in-law's like, what happened? Where's the ending? Where's the ending? And then it goes to credits. I'm like, what is happening? I kind of lost my mind a bit. So if you're playing this on PC, be careful. There's a bug out there somewhere that if you complain enough about the game on stream, the game knows and punishes you by not showing you the last minute of the game in the ending. So just be careful. Don't be me. Anyway, that's my counter to that. And but I wish it was yours, Joe. I really wish it was you. That would make a lot more sense. And I'd be like, okay, I can dig that. Cool. I can now enjoy this, hours later.
All right. I think we should go to questions, comments, or memories. I have a few.
Cool.
I won't read them all, of course, but from the Bioshock Lovers Unite, I got from Crystal Whitlow. I could go on and on about this game all day long. The opening is just as memorable and iconic as the first game. From Juan Hernandez, as long as you play the Burial at Sea DLC after, we will be at some point.
Yeah, see, there's the caveat, right? There it is. You've got to play Burial Sea, and it fixes a lot of these things. Yes.
I'm hoping to next, hopefully April is my goal.
April. I'll be available in April.
From Paulo Palacio, I played this game for the first time coming from Bioshock 1 and 2 and knowing nothing about it, loved it, and the DLCs made me love not only this one, but the entire franchise as a whole even more. Yep. And from Craig Mark, Return to Sender is arguably the best plasmid in the franchise and by far the most beautiful in terms of graphics and art.
We didn't talk about Return to Sender. That's the one where you can absorb bullets.
Yeah, you absorb bullets and shoot them back out.
I liked it. I liked it quite a bit. I wanted telekinesis.
Yeah.
All that made me want was telekinesis. I'm like, just give me things to throw at people. The friend of mine who's doing a run through a Bioshock right now, I was on his stream a couple days ago, and I recognized he was getting hammered. And I'm like, why aren't you using telekinesis? Like it's the best plasmid in the game other than shocking. He's like, oh, let me try it. And then all of a sudden he's like, barrels are my favorite weapon. Barrels are my favorite weapon. Love it. And so all he does is not throw bodies around. I'm like, see, it's way more fun if you use the tools. Yeah, I like Return to Sender though. It's a good one. Yeah.
And from I watched the entire Overlord Super replay. I only have 2, but I'll read them. From Randolph Sparks, I actually shed a little tear after the post-credit sequence. And from Zach, I loved the first 2/3 of the game. Tons of exploration and beautiful settings. The last third was a bit too linear. The battle where you had to control Songbird was such a pain in the butt. I'm also super bummed that they limited you to carrying 2 weapons. The first 2 games, like, we have fun weapons and powers, use them all at any time. Are there any interviews saying why they limited the gun carrying capacity? Overall, I still like it a lot and have beat it 4 times.
I don't know. Halo.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
really,
assuming, yeah.
Literally, I think that's what it was. Like
that's
you're
all it
saying.
was, really. There's no interview saying as to why they couldn't. They literally were just like, oh no, we need to have 2 weapons because we're a first-person shooter now.
Yep, and that's what first-person shooters do these days. Yeah, you're right.
All right, and from the last group, Giant Bomb, I got a lot. Thank you, guys. I'm not reading them all, but I will read some. From Jason Forberg, currently sits in my favorite game of all time. I played it through 7 to 8 times. Okay.
Don't let me steal your joy. Please don't let me steal it. Really, honestly, don't let me do that.
From Alex Hartnett, it's definitely controversial for a bunch of decent reasons, but I still have a soft spot for it. From Matthew Paul Irwin, it's a great game, but that bland cover doesn't do it any favors. You are right.
It's pretty generic, yeah.
From Tom Yanko, too many bullet sponge enemies compared to Bioshock 1 and 2.
Yes.
Oh, here's a question from Chris Waits. Do you think the retroactive negativity this game got was worth it?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. as coming from somebody who is retroactively very negative, I'll tell you a very, 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 very quick story. I was writing the very occasional video game review back in those days in 2013. I was doing a lot of film, but once in a while I had a site that I could post video game reviews. So I reviewed this game, and I don't know where this review is lost to time because, and thank God, I think I gave it a glowing review. I was like, oh, this is important. This is amazing. And like I said, the open, after the time, I'm thinking, because again, this comes up a lot. I started like whittling away at my excitement and realizing, oh, there's lots of parts of this game I really didn't like. But I think during that time when this was 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, when all the awards important, I think a lot of times, A, has the Bioshock name, so you expect amazingness. And B, people just get caught up in the zeitgeist of something, right? I think like Elden Ring, everyone's giving it 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. I am sure in 2 years, people are going to go, well, was it really a 9 out of 10? Was it really 10 out of 10? This doesn't work. But when all that happens, you are struck with, you don't get a chance to think about things critically. You're just reacting to it emotionally. That was cool. Lighthouses, sweet, Songbird. And then as time goes on, your brain gets this chance to kind of settle down when all that rhetoric settles down. So I was guilty of that, man. I was guilty of it. I was a 10 out of 10er. No joke. But then time whittled that down to probably 5.
Here's a good one. From Juan Rodriguez. This game is fun, but it has a terrible case of white person wrote this. Wrote this itis.
Very good.
That's a good one, yeah.
Very good.
All right, from Danny Miller. This was the first Bioshock game I played, and I love it. Also, I feel the social commentary aspects are very over-debated. Well, we did that for 3 hours. From Paul Lucy. Public opinion on this game has soured considerably, and rightfully so.
Yup. High five.
All right, and from Eagle Anderson, it's an interesting continuation of the exploration of the deterministic nature of video games.
I don't think that's purposeful. I wish it was purposeful, the deterministic nature of games. I don't think that's purposeful, honestly. I wish it was. I wish it was an actual commentary, but I don't think so.
From Alex Golet, I absolutely loved it. I'm a sucker for these types of time loop games that look beautiful, played well, and I absolutely adored the hell out of it. And from Jimmy Oliver, that ending is one of my favorite gaming moments. And the last one, I'm going to read from Brian Langan Walter. Would you kindly enjoy the game?
Doesn't work on me, brother. Doesn't work on me. Sorry.
So, yeah. All right, and that brings us to Shelf Stacker Bach. And Bill, why don't you go first?
Poor Mike is staring at his counter on his Audacity and just going, "Oh my god!" This is a box, and this is what I would label as a grave disappointment. Before this recording, I used to call it Stupid Bioshock Infinite. I'm not going to walk off of that, but I don't have the venom for it I think I used to before playing it. But just disappointment. Yeah, this could have been so much better. We talked about it, how the ideas there were better, and the amount of pairing and cutting away at this game until it just became a standard first-person shooter with magic abilities is a shame. The racial stuff is, I think, just honestly deplorable. I think it's gross what they try to do with this game. I think the overall message that they again completely paper over in the last third for all the time travel-y stuff and dimension stuff is extremely gross, as stated multiple times. There's fun things to it. It's fun shooting people in the face. There's Elizabeth's a really cool character. Songbirds amazing. The setting of Columbia is cool. A lot of the bones are here. They really are. And I get it if you enjoy this game because the bones are really strong and solid, but everything else on it is flabby and dumb and stupid. So this is a box, guys. And sorry to those who enjoyed it. Please enjoy it. Don't pay attention to me, cranky old 41-year-old man in an office someplace. Enjoy your game, but to me, it kind of stinks.
What about you, Joe?
I feel like I'm going to have to at least shelf it. I do like the game. Now, completely, I do agree. Like, this game does have way too much, like, the racial stuff does really put it out of the way. But I also like to think of this game, because for me, it's what it is besides all the memories, this is baby's introduction into multiverse. This is a prime example of what we're getting into with the Marvel series and what a lot of series you do offhand. And it starts going into what you probably could do with theoretics and stuff like that. So I have a really bad soft spot for this game. And Bill is right. It is a bad soft spot. So it goes on the shelf.
Okay. And I'll go last. This is going to go in the stack because I didn't enjoy the gameplay as much as I was hoping to. It didn't hit me the way that it did back in 2013. And it had the games my mom effect, as Adam calls it, from Talking Game True Bubblegum, where you go back to an old game, realize you don't like it the same way as you once did. And that's
fair
kind of
too,
what happened here. But I'm glad we played it. I'm glad we finally got to talk about it. I didn't have fun with it at times, and I still like parts of the story, but I don't need to. I am going to play the DLC, but I don't need to play this game again. I think I can put this. I can be done with this, but it's going in the stack just because I don't want to put it in the box. I still had fun with it at times.
Have you ever had a game end with a shelf, a stack, and a box?
Probably, but I don't know.
Oh wow, because that rarely happens on this program.
I feel like I unfortunately never keep track of what I was supposed to, but at this point when I recorded over 300 episodes, yeah, it's not happening. It's just not happening. I'm not going back to listen to all of them to find out what we said.
No.
It's too late for that now.
Yes.
And if you enjoyed this episode, we do have other Bioshock episodes that we have covered. We did Bioshock 1, episode 126, Bioshock 2, episode 143, Bioshock 2, Minerva's Den DLC, mini 16. And then we'll be Burial Scene. We'll be done with the Bioshock series. So we're almost there. And next week, we are going to be talking about... I completely forgot what I was going to say. Mega Man X4. That's next week's episode. My brain shut down for a second. So look forward to that, because that is coming. I'm excited to finally play that. And Bill, where can people find you at?
Very quickly, I do a podcast entitled "A Gamer Looks at 40." It's a as opposed to my sour disposition on this show, it's a very upbeat and lighthearted and nostalgic look at the history of games as told through the stories of people who lived it. It's people who've just telling stories about different games and eras and the things they love about the medium. It's super duper wholesome. And I don't complain about Bioshock one bit on it. A Gamer Looks at 4040 on Twitter, and search for other things because they'll be there on the internet somewhere out there.
All right. And I was just going to tell you to look at his podcast. I want to give a shout out to my awesome intro outro.